Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
Went to the Titanic exhibit.
Anything sink in? Everyone has an opinion on what if they ever change, what the Patriots should have for run-out music. And the problem is they send me these songs, hey, it's, Dweeble with, this song, and I don't know what it is, so I don't know if it's good or not. It could be the greatest run-out song ever. I just don't have the time to look up all these songs.
If you're just going to change it to something that just sounds like Crazy Train, it's like, well, it's already Crazy Train, so what's the point?
Let's just Enter the Sandman. That doesn't sound like Crazy Train, right?
Yeah, I'd go back. I like the... What is it?
What is that?
Carmina Burtano.
Yeah.
What is that? Dun, 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 dun. That one?
The music talent.
I'm not a big fan of that. I do like Crazy Train. I've always liked it.
David Schwimmer was such a pussy.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Thursday here at Gillette Stadium, and we're going to talk about what we saw yesterday at practice, right? That's the big topic of the day. Yep. It's Alex, it's Mike, it's Evan, it's Paul. Deuce, I mean. Deuce. Yeah, people know you as Deuce. You got a nice haircut there.
I do.
Yeah.
You got it yesterday.
Service
Thanks for
awards
noticing.
today. Look nice.
Service. Are you up?
Getting one?
Yeah, I'm getting my football today.
You're
my
5?
My 5-year
My
football. Yeah.
Do you get a football for 5? Or
I don't know. I think so.
I think
thought
you
I
do.
picked
really?
between the two.
Okay. Yeah, so what Deuce is talking about, we have annual company service awards. So everybody gathers, they give us food, and people 5, 10, 15, 20, so on, get
25.
awards
25.
for their service. Thank you for your service.
25.
Yeah. 25, you're up today?
Yeah, you're 27.
Nice, yeah.
Yes.
It lags behind a little.
Patriots math.
Yeah, I'm 30, but I'm not being
not up?
recognized
Yeah.
because I
3
haven't
more
been here
years.
32
3 more
years. Right, yeah. Anyway, that's an inside joke. So Deuce is all...
But it's true.
That's why we're dressed up.
Deuce is
Nice.
all dressed up for that.
You guys are lavender
You
today.
guys coordinated.
Yeah.
Didn't tell me.
It's
My
nice.
favorite color. I
It
would have
is
joined
kind of
in
an
with
odd
you
color
guys.
that we both wore on the same day.
It's a good color.
Light
Yeah.
purple.
Yeah.
Very spring.
All
You
right.
look great, Freddie.
So let's jump right into it. We
Like
had
David Schwimmer.
one of
You almost choked on your Pepsi.
one of the open OTAs that we had full access to.
Yeah.
So what stood out to you guys yesterday?
What stood out? Lots of stuff. I mean, I thought it was maybe a little cleaner as far as Drake May goes with one of the interceptions that were the headline from the first one. Still some issues though. Fumbled snap. Doesn't seem like the offense is really crisp yet. Not that I expect it to be. I would say my big takeaway hearing from Spillane, who, man, he's just intense. I already told I'm going to be a Robert Spillane crusher already. But he's intense. You listen to Christian Ellis talk about him. He's wise. He's funny. So it seems like he's really, like, middle linebackers, are they all the same? Like, it's the same kind of vibe as Juwan Bentley kind of had, where these guys are just used to being in the middle, used to directing traffic, and just like what I had to hear from him. I think, Evan did a good job. I read his write-up, saw a lot of the same things he did. But it's kind of fun because Paul and I sat together, but we didn't really talk to you yet. So we haven't really regrouped on our thoughts of all the takeaways. But a lot of plays, a lot to take away. I think I don't.
I like what Spillane said about what he tells the line. You guys go.
I'll make you right.
I'll make you right.
Yeah, I like that too. That too. That was good. I think Javon Baker, some issues with him, as well as Jaheim Bell, like not running back to the huddle, and you can see Vrabel really wanting guys to practice with tempo. And for the most part, you see that throughout the practice. There's really good energy. Guys are running from drill to drill. But when guys, like Javon Baker made a play, then he kind of paused and flexed a little bit, and everybody's going back to the huddle, and they're like, get back to the huddle.
No plays off until we tell you.
It's a little bit of what we saw last year from Baker in that regard. And last point I'll just make is I think Kyle Williams made a couple nice catches yesterday. Also had a fumble, which I think it was after the whistle, though, Paul. Just kidding. But yeah, so it was really a lot going on. Good day. I don't know. They're
still
maybe
in
hoping for some
shorts.
firework. Yeah. There wasn't. It's not training camp. No. First day pads come on kind of practices. They're working through stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that I wrote a write-up about my observations this morning, but Robert Spillane, I felt like, was in the offense's huddle. Like, maybe he's one of those guys that has great play recognition, and I think once you start to see the same looks from the offense over and over again in practice, it was like he was 2 steps ahead of everybody to the ball,
Yeah,
almost
I
to the
noticed
point
that.
where I thought maybe he was kind of like knew the plays before the play was even run. That's good. I mean, he definitely flies to the ball. There's no question about that. I think offensively, with Drake May, you're still seeing maybe a little bit of a learning curve there with this Josh McDaniels offense. It just doesn't seem like he's playing fast. Like, it is the timing of it, the rhythm of it. The ball is not coming out as quickly as it was before.
From what you can tell, and obviously we don't know the play that they're calling up, does it look like it should? Is the play being designed that it should be that rhythmic, get it out of the
And at times, like yesterday, I thought there were times where there was maybe some accuracy or just like miscommunication things going on as well, which is expected this time of year. But like, one throw that stood out to me is he had a little in cut to Hunter Henry that he was early and like sailed it over his head. And I've seen Drake May make that throw in his sleep. Like, that's a throw that even last year he made regularly to multiple receivers, that backside dig cut type of thing. So there's still some ways to go with that, but it's not like that I don't think the light is ever going to come on. It's just more like what we saw from him beginning of last year in rookie training camp to maybe halfway through the summer. It started to really click for him. Hopefully this time around it starts to click for him in July instead of August, but that's sort of where I feel like we're at. It feels a little bit similar to what it did when he first got in here last year.
Yeah. I thought Ramondre Stevenson he's back out there. We haven't seen him. His father passed away, but I thought he looked like he's in good shape. A very brief kind of work at the end when they were doing walkthrough stuff. I know Bedard had said that too. It's hard to tell. Like, I hate kind of saying that stuff because you don't really know, but to me it kind of stood out that he looked like he was in pretty good shape. And
I always, my takeaways from those kinds of things are always like, the last impression you have of the players is the end of a grinding season.
Yeah.
And then you see them in shorts, like in May and June, and they look quick and fresh and energetic,
Yeah.
So I understand what your trepidation is to say, like, it looks like he's in better shape. I agreed. I thought he looked quick and he was bouncing around a little bit. But you just wonder, is that just, 6 months of fresh legs?
Especially a running back, right? I mean, by the end of that season, he is torn up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But, yeah, I would agree with both of you guys. I thought it was a little sloppy again offensively, and I have to think that that's at least partly, hopefully, due to just sort of the transition with the new system and whatnot.
How about impressions of coaching out there, like coaches that are involved, styles, who's most vocal, that type of thing?
I pumped up Scott Booker. I didn't really notice him as much yesterday. To be honest, not a lot of coaches caught my radar yesterday. One thing I did say to Paul, and maybe you can, and Evan too, have we seen that before where they have the first team offense and defense or the top guys kind of on the right field running drills, and then the second team or third team, the rest of the guys and the defense on the left field, and they're all, and the wide receiver, Todd Downing, he was coaching up the offense. I don't remember, maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't remember ever seeing 2 units going at once simultaneously on the 2 fields. So I don't know if I'm correct.
Before I answer
that,
I would ask.
Yeah, like split field. Yeah, I've seen it a little bit now. Usually, it depends on where all the quarterbacks go. And I think one of the notable things about the way they've been doing it now is that Drake's been alone with the starters on one side, and then Dobbs and Woolridge are on the other field.
Right.
So sometimes you'll see the starter and the backup quarterback together on one side of the field mixing in, and then like
opportunity.
Isn't that how they ended it yesterday?
Yeah.
With May and Dobbs on the right side, and
I've only
Woodbridge
seen May
on the
by
left.
himself on the
forget.
one field.
And I would say that's what to me, it's Bill used to do that. Instead of simultaneous, Bill would do it after practice, the opportunity.
Well, I've seen that, but I've also seen we're not supposed to say who's first team, but we've seen like first team defense against second team offense on one side, first team offense with second team defense on the other side.
Yeah, this is different.
This is different?
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah.
This is more like kind of end of the practice walkthrough stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're jogging through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I think from a coaching perspective, just watching McDaniels a little bit, he still has that Belichick in him of like, I'm just going to call plays from the sideline, and I'm not going to make corrections.
Right down to the whistle
Yeah.
twirl. He does the whistle twirl.
Yeah,
Just
I'm
like
not gonna step in mid rep and be like, nope, we're gonna correct all that kind of stuff in the film room after practice, in the meeting rooms. There was a point yesterday towards the end of practice when it was still live that he was just calling plays. Like they weren't going off a script, they weren't going off cards. He was just with the headset on, Drake May in the huddle, relaying plays like you would on game day. And that was always a big Bill thing, like we're going to practice like it's a game even in May. So I thought that was interesting that they're kind of going back to that a little bit, whereas the West Coast coaches last year, it was rep, corrections, and it kind of dragged it a little bit more, whereas this one, it's like, let's just sequence plays together, and we'll run 8-10 plays in a row, and then we'll take a step back and do corrections and things like that.
What about the offensive line?
I was just going to say
okay.
that. I think there's a big rotation and competition at left guard. I think that's what's been apparent to me with the offense through these first couple practices is that everybody's in the mix. Some guys are still not healthy. They're working back, so it's hard to get a true sense of it. But overall, I would say that left guard competition is very wide open, and everybody's going to get a chance to compete there. Same, maybe even center too a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're going to have a lot of competition for those spots. Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of competition, I think, for like that swing tackle spot too.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's a done deal. And you said that there's some guys working through things. I think Mike mentioned that before practice yesterday. There's still some guys in various states, as Bill used to say, of conditioning and whatnot. And I think Morgan Moses has spent a lot of time sort of, with those guys, and at the beginning of practice walkthrough, and then when they do something against the defense, sometimes he's in, sometimes he hasn't been. There's been a lot of rotation there. I don't think we saw Caden Wallace yesterday.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a big competition too, that swing tackle spot.
Because the current practice rules, I think, hurt linemen.
I agree.
Yeah.
What do you think about in the next CBA, or maybe doing an amendment where you can increase the number of days that linemen, both defense and offense, can be in pads? So there's still no tackling or anything like that, but at least they're in pads so they can hit harder and really get used to practice game speed and get the reps in that they really need to be ready. Like, what do you think
I don't
about
think
that?
you're ever going to see that in OTAs.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think you're
No,
sooner to
okay,
see
I'm talking about even training camp,
Oh.
increasing the number of pad days for linemen.
I don't know. I mean,
I'd be for it. I'm sick of hearing teams complain about how they're not prepared for
Yeah.
the season to start. They're not ready for the physicality of the league. And I don't think they're ever going back. I don't think you're going to ever add more physicality back to the practices. I think the NFLPA would,
It's just you
would not
can't-
allow that.
You can't practice
I
it
know,
unless you're actually hitting, and
Yeah.
and if
I
you're
just
going to
wonder
hit, you
what
need
the bigger
pads on.
culprit is. Is it practice time or is it the college systems that they're coming out of?
Yeah.
And I don't have the answer because I'm not smart enough to know.
But
the
even
answer.
if the college systems are bad, then I need more practice.
I would say, it can't hurt to have more practice.
No.
But I think when we watch these practices, basically the offensive linemen are like in a basketball stance, just trying to stay in front of a guy.
Right.
And like if a guy, not that there's much contact, but like you're obviously going to give up ground when you're not in pads and you're not really able to get your hands
Right.
into somebody and sink in. So like a lot of these quarterbacks, all three they're throwing from muddy pockets because it's easier to push the pocket. Like it's easier
Right.
to collapse
But
in on
even
the
the
quarterback.
one-on-one drills, you can't do that without pads on.
No, they don't do
Now,
any
what's
of
like
that.
limiting that time? Is it like an NFLPA
Yeah,
push?
Yeah.
it's
Because
a CBA
I don't know.
thing.
To me, like I feel like it would be a split issue with players because one, they want to be safe and not get injured, but on the other hand, if they're at that much of a disadvantage,
Yeah.
I think some guys would have the mentality like, no, I want to get out there, I want to hit more.
I need the reps, and I'm not saying it's full tilt, full time for linemen, but at least we can have a portion of practice where they're in pads and they're really getting the reps, the real reps in that they need for them and for us to evaluate.
So the reason
how do
why-
we okay, the open competition for left guard. How do I know who's good right now? You can't.
Well, now, no.
No, so
But this is more than they used to get.
No, but I know, but like competition, like how are they competing if they're not in pads and they're practicing the way they play?
Yeah.
How do I know who's
So
winning?
I would just say the whole thing with Pat, and I get it. everybody, it's never as good as it used to be, right? They have 3 opportunities in full pads that most every team doesn't take any advantage of. 3 preseason games. These guys don't play in them. So if this is all about time in pads and practice, well, this is a 60-minute practice that you just passed up. And you have 3 of them. And they generally don't play more than 10 snaps combined.
Yeah.
So I'm a little tired of hearing about how they're not ready. It's all these poor guys. Like, they have an opportunity to be ready.
That's true.
And the teams choose not to. I agree with the team's approach, by the way. I wouldn't play my starters any significant time in the preseason either.
Well, that's why you have those joint practices.
But I think it's
and if you're not ready, you're not ready. That's on you.
Isn't it a little different though for Morgan Moses, who's been in the league for 15 years? Like, I don't need to see Morgan Moses out there really at all. Like, I'll see you week 1. But like, if you're a guy that's trying to make the team or trying to,
those guys generally play in the preseason,
right? But if you're a rookie that's trying to, Will Campbell, and Will Campbell is trying to figure out the NFL and the speed of the NFL and all that kind of stuff. Like, he's going to be thrown into the fire week 1. He's going to start at left tackle, and he might have Max Crosby lined up across from him week 1.
So if he doesn't play in the preseason, I don't want to hear about he didn't have enough practices. He wasn't ready.
Yeah. I just that's the difference. Like, where it hurts, I think, is the back end of the roster guys that you never know. Like, maybe a Tyrese Robinson would develop into a starting guard with more opportunities, but there just isn't enough opportunities to go around right now, way that the whole thing is set up, that he probably never is going to get that chance. Now, I'm not saying that Tyrese Robinson's secretly, John Hannah, but like, maybe he's a better player than he's given credit for if he had the opportunities and he had time to develop.
I wonder if there's a way to find some nuance in it, because it seems like it's black and white, whether it's a padded practice or a non-padded practice. And like, to your point, Fred, what is the real issue? Is it defensive backs tackling in the open field? Is that or is it offensive linemen and defensive linemen not used to the physicality that happens in the trenches? Is there a way, maybe to your point and kind of what Alex is saying, is to target specific practices where, like, it's okay to tackle this one. It's not a full contact practice. But today there's going to be 2 periods where you're allowed to do trench work or something like that. And I also say, to Alex's point, is there a way to find some kind of evidence to tell the players why it might be beneficial, whether it's injury or just performance based?
I mean, every year, linemen in general just drop like flies. So has it made a tangible difference?
Right.
Like, is it hurting them? Is it helping them? I don't know if you'll ever be able to actually.
Well, and they talk about, I'm in shape, but I'm not in football shape.
Right.
And to me, that means getting hit.
Yeah.
Getting the body hardened, from hitting. Now, I get it. OTAs, you're going to have these, you're going to have mini camp, then they're going to be a break. So there's no sense in getting into football shape now because of the break. But I think once training camp starts, that's my goal, is to get into football shape.
And that's not to say that the player safety changes aren't important. Like, I personally think many of those it's the right line of thinking. But I wonder if, like, the NFLPA took all those guys and just posed another vote, now that they've seen kind of both sides of it, how it would fall.
Well, I think the issue is I brought up Morgan Moses, and I'm not saying him specifically had this opinion, but the veterans are going to feel differently about this than the young players. And most of the time, the people that are in charge at the NFLPA, the players that are representing the players, are veteran guys.
That's a good point.
So those veteran players want nothing to do with training camp. Like, they don't want to. They hate it. And
Will Campbell's probably saying, "Yeah, let's go. I'm coming right out of LSU.
Right.
This is what we do at LSU. I want to continue to do it."
So,
but you're right. The veterans are the ones with the louder voices because there's more of them.
Right. So if they're the voices and they're the ones that are lobbying for certain things, they're going to lobby for less contact in practice because they don't want to get hit. Right. But the younger players are the guys that are fringe roster players that are competing for roster spots. Like, those guys want to participate. They want to give it their all and have the opportunity.
And the veterans tell the young guys, "This is how we're voting. This is what you vote no on too."
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and then you get to the owners and how they're part in all these negotiations, and I think their feeling is, listen, you want to practice less? We don't care as long as it doesn't affect the bottom line. But I think it's short-sighted because the quality of the game eventually will affect the bottom line. So I do worry about that long term.
There's like 3 teams that think they have a good offensive line.
Right.
It's like the Eagles, the Lions, and maybe that's it. Everybody else thinks that their offensive line stinks or has holes on the offensive line, and then they look around and they're like, well, you're not developing any offensive linemen. Like that's what it is. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily just about contact. It's also about technique. Playing offensive line is such a major technique position, and it's not a natural technique. Like throwing a football and catching a football is a natural human movement.
Yeah.
Blocking in a pass set is not a natural. Like, you have to learn that.
At passing camp, maybe you should have line camp.
Or like special rules for rookie mini camps where they can get acclimated like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's unique, so maybe some type of exception for the linemen to do a little bit more contact along the way.
I would have them play in the spring leagues. Like, not Will Campbell, but if you're
You mean like the UFL? And
yeah, if you were a lineman that was the 53rd guy or as a practice squad guy last year, I would allow, maybe have some sort of agreement waiver or something like that in case of injury. But I'd allow those players to go get live in-game developmental reps in the spring league and allow them to go that way. We talk about this on Catch 22 all the time. We feel like this is something that could really benefit both sides. And then sickos like Barth and I would watch, the practice squad Patriot players.
Tyrese Robinson developing nicely for the Utah Grizz.
Yeah, we'd have breakdowns of this guy's on the Battle Hawks or whatever, and Efton Chisholm's catching 10 passes a game for whatever team. I just, there'd be interest from that angle, but also I think it would help in the long run with development.
Does Barth have the UFL inside and out? He's all over
Can he name
that?
all the teams?
Yeah, definitely. Yesterday we were talking about this exact thing in terms of letting the players go in, and I asked him, I was like, how many teams are in the UFL? 8. I couldn't even, and he was like, but I think there might be 10 next year. And I was like, 10?
He knows the scuttlebutt about what might
how
happen.
many players? And apparently, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the owner right now. He's the money behind it. And it's all news to me.
I know Barth likes golf, so is this eating into his spring golf time? Or was he oh great, spring football, I have something to do on Saturdays now?
I find myself watching a series or two of every game when they're on. Just clicking around. I don't stick with it. It's not great. And the fact that there's absolutely nobody there takes away.
2020.
You know what I mean?
I can't help about the attendance, but in all seriousness.
Do you ever watch a game and there's no one there and you're why am I watching? No one else is?
I felt that way in 2020.
I'd rather watch collegiate softball than spring football.
Collegiate softball is
softball's
unbelievable.
electric.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, people like me and people like Barth, real sickos, if you put Patriots players that are on the Patriots 90-man roster into the spring league, and it was like a pipeline to the NFL, we'd probably write up about it.
I wouldn't have to watch.
I wouldn't watch it any more than I do, but I like your idea. Yeah, because I think there's a lot of NFL names. If you click it on and listen, you're going to hear 2 or 3 names that you know in the NFL.
Kiki Kuti, maybe?
Hakeem Butler. Remember Hakeem Butler from Iowa State?
Yeah, but he's not on a 90-man roster.
No, I'm just saying, they're NFL names. They don't make me want to watch anymore. Like C.J. Maribel.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily including you in the sickos department.
So Tyrese Robinson, again, all due respect to Tyrese Robinson, his presence on the Birmingham Stallions isn't going to make me watch that game any more than,
I'd be looking for the all-22.
But, next year.
Yes, you would be.
Next year, if it was the players' option and Kyle Williams wanted to play spring ball next year, would you watch?
Me? No. Oh. I mean, I would watch like I do now, in passing.
Yeah. Oh, I would be breaking down every route.
If it was the mini Patriots and you had
if there was
majority
a
of the roster,
it was like an AHL
that's
type.
different.
Like a spring.
That would be different. I'd be more apt because that's my job.
Yeah.
But that would be tough to do. I think that really what we're talking about, I brought up Efton Chisholm, right? We're talking about guys that are the 6th or 7th receiver on a 90-man roster that maybe having some live game reps against other, pseudo pros. It's kind of like the Senior Bowl.
I love your idea.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the idea.
You have that opportunity.
Yeah. Me and Matisse did one of these questions on PU Extras, and you actually kind of changed my mind.
Wow.
We've kicked around this idea for years.
No, absolutely not.
Because
as a minor league, I absolutely love that idea. In terms of general, if there was a Patriots-centric team, so there's 30,
Yeah.
wannabe Patriots on it. Now I'm watching that because that's part of my job.
It's like the AHL
It's like
or minor
you
league
said the
baseball.
college. Like I'd rather watch college softball than the preseason games too, but I don't really have that option.
Listen, I to take that idea to the next level, if every NFL team had a farm team and you played those games, it's a shortened schedule, 8 games or whatever, and you played those games in their facility, I think people would come out and watch that.
There'd be more.
Yeah.
There'd be more.
I think it'd be
interest.
tough to have all 32 teams have a farm team just because of sheer numbers. Like, would they have enough players to field teams? But I think that you could probably do something where maybe half a dozen
What if the
Patriot
AFC
players.
East had a team?
Sure.
Yeah.
Now we're
That's
talking.
a good idea.
Yeah, and the other thing that we threw around was, putting them in schemes that they're going to be running.
That's why you can't have the AFC East.
Right, that would be harder.
Yeah.
But like, let's say
Paul.
instead of the AFC East team, like let's say one team is running like the Shanahan West Coast, and one of them is running the McDaniels EP system, and the other is running the Andy Reid West Coast, and then those teams can send their players to those specific teams. So like the Miami Dolphins could say we're gonna
complicated.
You're like
have
sending your guy to a training
Hybrid.
program.
yeah.
But I think Evan's plan could work. I think if you gave it, there's some things that you'd have to iron out. But what if you had? What did you say? A dozen or so?
Yeah.
So let's just say it's 10 to 15 players from every team, and then you fill it in with the rest of the players that are playing now.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Not every team has to be on a roster.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
you're not going to fill it with 35 or 40 guys because
Right.
not 90-man roster. There's not that many guys that are fighting for an NFL job, but you take a dozen or so guys that would be benefiting from that, and then you put them in with all the guys that are playing now.
Right.
Boom.
Yeah.
You could have a league,
Yeah.
Maybe.
and there would be more interest in that league than there is now.
Yeah. I also want to talk about a story that you posted, I think it was yesterday, on Ted Harper, our
Yeah.
nutritionist. Really good stuff.
You posted
Thank you.
it.
Ted's been a guy who's been with the team for like 20 years now,
14.
14. And
Thanks for reading.
always, what's that?
Nothing. I didn't read it either.
What's that
He
now?
said, thanks for reading.
I'm just going off,
14 might as well be 20. It's
I
okay.
did actually read it, but we don't hear a lot from him. I know we did a
Yeah.
Do Your Job video of him years ago that did very well on YouTube, but in terms of the anecdotes that he shared with you, I'd never heard all that stuff
Me
before.
either. And
Yeah.
honestly, my first week here on the job, I pitched a story with Ted at that point because it was his 10th season. And I just wanted to hear about kind of how the evolution of like player mentality around nutrition had changed. Because, I mean, back in the day, everyone looked at Tom Brady and his avocado ice cream like he was a Martian, right? But now I think it's more in vogue to be thinking about that stuff. So I had always wanted to just kind of talk to him about that stuff. And Ted and I spoke for almost 2 hours just on the phone in the initial call. And then that's not even including like the back and forth we had on email, like almost for a full week following that. But some really cool stories I had never heard. Like I think like I had heard that Hightower had food poisoning before the Super Bowl against the Rams, but it was kind of like a small thing after the fact. But like he had full blown food poisoning like a few days before Super Bowl 53, and him and Ted were just tied at the hip, like monitoring every calorie, all the hydration that went into him, and you would have never known watching that game.
Oh, you have an unbelievable game
Really
that day.
cool
Could've been
stuff
the MVP.
about Patrick Chung, how Chung was like so versatile for the defenses, and part of it was because he was working with Ted any given week to either drop weight to match up with like a fast, agile, like receiver like tight end, or if he was playing in the box, he would bulk up a little bit to take on like those blocking tight end matchups. And there's just so much cool stuff.
I thought it was interesting, the whole thing with Brady, when Brady decided himself, okay, I'm going to start worrying about my
Right.
nutrition more. Before TB12, he went to Ted and sort of felt
Yeah.
him out, and Ted said that he kind of felt like he was being tested. Like, do I trust this guy? Yeah.
Right, because after Brady got hurt, that's when he started taking that stuff seriously. And then Ted comes in maybe 3 seasons after. So you're right, like he was like almost testing him, like asking questions. One, because I think Tom was genuinely really curious, but also like, is this guy legit? Does
Yeah.
he know? And like he's so legit. I had no clue that he used to work with Special Operations Forces.
Right.
That's the one factoid I knew.
Yeah.
like the one dietitian for the U.S. Army Special Ops, like
Badass
A
guys.
mother effers, you know, and then that was a job he kind of stumbled to. Didn't know if he wanted to get into sports or not, but was really happy doing what he was doing. And then just went to a conference, and Bears Nargerian happened to be there once, and they were like, hey, we'd love for you to interview. And he turned them down because he thought it would be disrespectful to the Army and the guys he was working with. And I think the Patriots tried to get him every single day of that conference to interview, and then he finally did and got the job. And
Yep.
rest was
The
history.
rest is history, and he just won an award.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Association for Professional, I'm going to mess up the acronym. It's the Association for Professional Sports Dietitians for both pro sports, tactical athletes, college sports. They have big conferences every year. So he won the Excellence Award, which is, I think, like one of the
Best Actor award.
There's 5 awards they give out, but that's definitely
Yeah.
the top one. And it was kind of cool because it was a full circle moment, because his first time attending that conference in 2012 was where he met Bears. So then now he was back winning that award.
Good stuff. Yeah. So I would highly recommend that article on Patriots.com.
Did any of his food philosophies conflict with like some kind of notion? I know you have a lot of like
Oh, we were geeking out
held
together.
beliefs, but
I
were
think
you
he
guys
was
in line with everything?
Yeah, he was. I think well, there was one question I asked him about just kind of like the technology they're using. This is stuff that's like super technical, so it didn't make it into the article. But I was just asking him about like DEXA scans and what technology they use, and like CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, and I brought up CGMs. He was like, "Oh wow, I'm surprised you know what that is." And I was like,
Yeah.
"You know me."
There you go.
Is that like the thing on the arm?
Yeah.
I would say you need an assistant. Yeah.
I was like, Ted, I could talk to you all day, and he was like, well, you know, I'm right down the hall from you, and I was like,
Yeah.
don't open that invite to
That
me
might be-
because
that might be
but,
tough,
no,
though.
but they don't understand that up until this year,
well,
like,
that's what we
we
were
could
kind
not
of
talk
talking
to you.
about.
We were not allowed to talk
and that's
to
what
you.
I said. I said, Ted, I've been wanting to talk to you for 4 years now.
Yeah.
And
You
he
could
was
do
like,
okay, but I feel like he'd be like, Deuce, what are we having for lunch today? Like,
Well, that
I
was-
just have an Uncrustable.
Yeah, I was gonna
One of
say
my-
your Uncrustables are gonna get cut, dude.
Italian sub with
Well,
no
I was
tomatoes.
like joking with the idea. I forget who I was talking to, but it would be funny to have him come in and like get us all on a nutrition
I don't need
plan or judge our. Well, because the first
You please don't
assignment,
judge
Sign
what I
us up.
eat.
the first assignment Bill gave him day one of the job was go up to Vince Wilfork, judge his plate, and tell him what's wrong with it.
Oh, God.
And like that was literally, I don't even know if he signed the paperwork yet, and he had to go meet with Wilfork, and like that's kind of an intimidating thing, right?
Wolf was like point blank, get out of my face.
Right.
It's like, it's ribs, and ribs.
And at first, I think Vince was like, well, that's what I told him. I was like, it's so funny that it's Vince, because in my hometown, he did a sponsorship with Big Y. So growing up, there was always a big billboard of Vince Wilfork on a Big Y like ad with the super bird or whatever. It was like fried chicken. So that's what I kept thinking about. But at first, Wilfork was like, who the F is this dude? But then they find out like, okay, they're asking him questions. He's super knowledgeable. And not only that, but like he's coming from working with some of the
War.
baddest people on the planet, you know, like absolute warrior soldiers. So they respected them. And then Vince ended up being one of his favorite guis, and they had a great relationship together and would
You must
bounce
love
things
Vince
back
now.
and
Vince
forth.
drops like
Go to his
300 pounds.
cookouts. Dude,
I didn't ask that. I should have.
Yeah, see?
I don't think there's ever been a vegetable here unless it was on a meatball sandwich.
Wow, that's an elite. I haven't heard that one before.
You had that one at the ready though.
Deep cut.
Yeah, him judging our dietary choices, I think would be bad for us.
yeah.
A very
Wrong.
bad.
Well, Paul would do great.
Well, for a while there, not anymore.
Back off the wagon.
I'm off that.
He'd be
No,
like,
it was good. Awaken 180 worked for me. It absolutely worked for me.
Yeah, it sure has. You have to buy a whole new wardrobe.
Yeah, I wouldn't go
I know, and we haven't really seen you in the short sleeves yet, but
I said,
Yeah,
I
stand
said,
up,
is
take
that
a twirl around.
I said, what are you wearing these days?
isn't about
I
me.
said, are you wearing
Is that
medium?
a medium?
He said,
No,
that's
it's
a
a
men's
large.
large,
It's a
but
large.
it's still
Wow,
hanging
you're
off.
swimming
of
in
it.
it.
Yeah.
I went from XL to regular large.
well,
Yeah.
you could tell you lost
you could
weight
go
in
even
your
lower.
sweatshirts and like your quarter zip,
Yeah.
half zips, excuse me, that
Yeah.
you were wearing.
Half.
but
Quarters is.
I saw a picture.
but the T-shirts,
of,
it's different. You really get the full
of
effect.
you from one of the preseason games that Pat McAfee shared the picture of you. Remember that?
Yeah.
And like you look like a different person. Like he really does. And like we see you all the time, so it's like
Right, you
it's
have to
harder
see-
you have to
It's
see
the same.
No, it's
feel good,
definitely
though,
So
right?
that would have been you. You could have given him Ted your credentials, because remember when you set me straight on my dietary things, when you're like, that's not right, this is not right. You know,
Yeah,
and
I had a lot of critiques of it. Waking 180. I think Ted would feel the
I
same
tell
way.
you, if we get you the hair, you'll be like in your 40s again.
Listen, if you change your mind, Ted is open.
I like that.
Ted is open to more content. He told me that the Do Your Job video in particular, he was really hesitant to do that at first and didn't want to. And then
So that's what I would say to Ted. Like, we've tried to do a lot of different things over the years, and he individually, now that may have been due to pressure from Bill Bears.
and I think he's just a behind the
but
scenes
he did
guy
not
too, didn't want the
He
spotlight.
did not want to be in the spotlight.
But he told me that
Can you blame him on that regime?
That's
Like,
what I said. I
Right.
don't know if that was
Right.
from pressure from Bill, and
course it
maybe
is.
he feels a little bit more comfortable
Well,
now.
he told me that ultimately he's really glad he did it because constantly, like whether he's speaking to a class at Purdue or at another university, and then even at that conference where he won the award, countless young RDs and students go up to him and say, I saw the video the Patriots did on you, and it made me want to be a sports nutritionist. So
There
he
you
said
go.
it was like a blessing that he did decide to
What's
do
he
it.
making that face for?
No, because
that's cool.
that I said
That's
there
our
you go.
content, is changing people's
Exactly.
lives.
It really is.
Exactly.
The butterfly effect.
Mission accomplished.
That one and that Do Your Job video still does numbers.
Oh,
like
it's
what?
huge, right?
6
Yeah.
how long ago did you guys do that?
Yeah.
It's always like the top.
It's
Like
still a
YouTube
top
video on the
performer.
It was one
It's
of the
so
top
evergreen.
played ones in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Schnitzel.
We've been doing this stuff.
schnitzel not good.
So,
Schnitzel.
no, that's
Very
good,
average.
good
Very
stuff.
average.
Good stuff.
Thanks.
I did have the schnitzel.
It's a
That was
giant
a fun
piece
one.
of fried chicken.
And
Yeah,
I think
It was a chicken cutlet.
I think
Yeah, it's
Vrabel, it's pretty apparent to me that he's very open and eager to let these guys have their moment in
Yeah.
the sun.
Even
So
the stuff we've been doing with equipment guys.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, I love
that's
it.
probably my next story pitch is like to talk to Devin, and because every TikTok sailor does with Devin, the comments are just, how do I get this job? You know,
yeah.
like all those little behind the scenes people that you don't even, there's so many jobs in sports people don't even realize, you know, beyond just the front facing ones. So
yeah,
Those equipment guys, man. I mean, that is a hard job.
it is.
That like we see them on the road, and they're at the stadium the night before the game until like 10, 11 o'clock. Then they're 6 a.m. the next morning to like get the locker room ready and get everything done. Like they like don't sleep like during the season.
And
It's
you talk
crazy.
about a job where you're totally there for someone else.
Yeah.
Like you have
Yep.
to know the needs of every player. Like this guy likes this type of socks. This guy
Right.
likes to wear
Yeah.
these, this cleat. He likes this face mask for his helmet.
like they get rookies
yeah.
and free agents,
Yep.
and they already know what helmet they wore, what the specifications of their cleats were, like coming in. It's just ready for them. Like,
And
we
this
talked
is
to LSU.
53
This is what we
guys.
got you.
This isn't like basketball.
Well, it's
or,
more than 53.
Where there's like 15 guys on the team. We're talking about them outfitting like 65, 70 guys, including the practice squad. Like it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
it's a
ton of
lot of
work.
work. Do they do the laundry too? The
I
equipment
think
guys?
they do.
They do.
I mean, that alone.
Not the main guys, but their minions do.
Yeah, but
not to call those guys
it's part of
minions
that
because they're
department.
great. But
The
yeah,
equipment. Yeah, that alone is a full-time job.
I know.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Just like
A lot of
getting to know
Tide
them
Pods.
a little bit.
Right.
How many Tide Pods do they go through each year? I'd like to know that number.
There's a lot of plastic in those Tide Pods.
There
though,
are
Fred.
Fred, they have the
Microplastics
giant
and
dispensers attached to the
microreceptors.
machines. They're not throwing Tide Pods.
Oh no.
Speed Queens.
I was actually a clubby for the Paw Sox.
Well, I hope they have speed
They have
queens
speed
because
queens.
that's some
No, I don't
heavy
know
duty.
that.
It's heavy duty
That's an
cleaning
industry
they
standard.
need.
Yeah.
We should find out.
Okay. 855-PATS-500 is the hotline. Podcasts at patriots.com is the email address. If you want to subscribe to our newsletter, it's patriots.com/PU newsletter. We've got one coming out tomorrow that you're getting ready, Alex. So you've been busy.
I'm really excited for that one.
Are you?
Yeah, I think my warm-up song's really going to resonate with the fans.
Okay.
personal warm-up.
Spoiler alert.
Going back to yesterday's practice, Kylan Pembroke writes in, big story on Paul's shows yesterday and today is that Dobbs had a better day than May. Really? The veteran quarterback who's been doing this for a while is quicker in learning a new offense? You don't say. To me, this is such a non-issue. Shaking my head. What do you all think? Did he, in fact, have a better day?
It's a rare thing that I don't agree with either side.
Yeah, right?
Like, I don't think there's any reason that Joshua Dobbs should be further along in this offense than Drake May. I don't think because he's been in the league for a few years, he hasn't been in this offense for a few years. So I think they started at the same level. But I also don't necessarily think. I mean, I thought Dobbs made some good throws yesterday.
A couple standout throws.
So I guess if you technically wanted to say he looked better, I think you could probably. It's one of those semantic things. Like you could probably say that that's true, but I think
Talking
the
about
offense.
a couple throws.
I think the offense looks sloppy right now.
Yeah.
I don't think it looked all that much better with Dobbs than it did with May. Now, I do think there was some hesitation, and I extrapolate that from being mental on Drake's part. I know people don't want to hear the hitch thing and they get tired of this, but I do think that it looks like he's thinking a lot as he's going through his stuff. And I think Evan illustrated that at the top with his observations about the throws not necessarily looking like they were on time.
Yeah.
And with Dobbs, it probably did look a little bit better.
Yeah. I just
incrementally.
I think like saying who had the better day in May is
irrelevant.
Is just crazy. Like based off of what, and Dobbs probably had the best throw to Kyle Williams down the sideline on the go route, but Kyle Williams also beat his guy and got open and gave him a chance to make the throw. So if
I
Drake,
liked that catch though.
Yeah.
Did May have a chance to throw to Williams?
A couple,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
he's definitely was more with Dobbs. But like, if Kyle Williams had ran that exact route in that exact matchup and got behind the defense in the exact same way, then Drake May probably would have put the ball on him too. Like it was a throw an NFL quarterback should be able to make.
The route reminded me of at the combine when they do that drill where they're, you got to stay back and let the ball come on. And Kyle Williams just did a great job adjusting. So he's around. I mean, I just like seeing guys that show up. It's unfortunately like Polk was last year where he's making some catches. Actually, I wanted to ask Evan a little bit. I love reading other people's stuff afterwards because there's so much going on. You don't feel like you get to see everything. But you pointed out Craig Woodson, who I didn't really clock yesterday, and I know you had some nice things to say about him. I was just curious what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, I admit I wasn't super high on that pick. I thought that they reached a little bit on that pick, and it's way too early to determine it one way or the other. But he's probably been the rookie that has surprised me the most throughout this whole process so far. I think that he's got a really good instinctual feel for the game, especially in zone coverage, help coverage, whether he's playing over the top or he's playing, robber or second level coverage in zone. And he's got just a good feel for it. And I feel like that's not necessarily a strength of Duggar or Jabril Peppers in terms of playing in space and playing deep in the deep part of the field. So if he can do something like that at an NFL level, then those guys can then go do what they do best, and they can go after the football and be a little bit more aggressive. But with Woodson, yesterday, I think it was Dobbs who's playing quarterback, might have been May, but there was like an in cut over the middle of the field, and he just was sitting right in the passing window. And it made him. The quarterback ended up having to airmail it at the last second because he kind of baited him, and then he had to airmail it. And it was like that's a good heady play for a guy that's 2 weeks into this as a rookie. So not ready to put him in the red jacket or anything yet. But there's one I kind of expected to be impressed by Travion Henderson. I kind of expected to be impressed by Kyle Williams, Will Campbell. Those guys I figured would stand out at immediate first impression. But Craig Woodson, I would say, has been the other rookie that's kind of made a little bit of an impression.
Okay. Let's go to the phones. We'll go to Chris in New Hampshire. Hey, Chris.
Hey, does anyone know? Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello. Hey, does anyone know if Juwan Bentley got signed? I've been looking. I can't find.
No, he's still a free agent.
Yeah.
That's
I think
too
it was
bad.
Injury designation.
He was one of the two people that got cut that I disagreed with. The other one is, does Gerard Mayo have a job?
No.
I don't know where Gerard Mayo is.
No? All right. And the last question is, was Gerard Mayo a Hall of Fame candidate for the Patriots before coaching?
I don't think so, but
I don't
probably
either.
the way everyone gets in. But I don't think
You get a red jacket. You get a red jacket.
Everybody.
Not in my book.
No, he wouldn't.
Do you think his coaching disaster has derailed that path?
No.
No.
Really?
No. I don't. I mean,
No,
Okay.
he'd be judged as a player, not as a coach.
defensive rookie of the year.
I
and
don't
then-
think that's fair. I mean, I was never a big fan of him either way, but as a player, he was just kind of there.
Yeah.
And as a coach, he was an abject disaster.
So a lot of people think
Oh.
that Troy Brown was part of the problem with wide receivers. He's been a wide receiver coach for the last several years, and the wide receivers didn't develop, didn't seem like they were all on the same page, didn't seem like be running the proper routes. I don't think that's taken away from his Hall of Fame status, as a
Okay,
player. I think
but
I think you're
also,
judged
being a
as a
wide
player,
receiver
not
coach-
as a coach.
being a head coach doing things. I mean,
Yeah, but
No,
like
I
if
agree
Mike
with-
Vrabel
I
didn't
agree.
work out, then we wouldn't be saying that Mike Vrabel shouldn't be in the Patriots Hall of Fame. Yeah, it just
Right.
Mike Vrabel got
Mike
into the Hall
Vrabel
before his
got
coaching.
fired as a Titans
I'm
coach.
just saying,
Like,
if he wasn't.
But he was already in the Hall of Fame. Let's just say that.
If he wasn't
let's
already,
just say that Mike Vrabel was more of a disaster than Gerard Mayo,
oh,
and he wasn't in the Patriots Hall of Fame, but he was nominated. Would the fans vote for him?
maybe the fans wouldn't vote.
Well,
like
that's
maybe
the
it would,
point. I think.
yeah, but it
I
wouldn't.
can't imagine that. I
It
just
wouldn't.
can't.
It wouldn't take away from his candidacy.
I couldn't
though.
imagine the fans not getting Vinatieri this time, but I was
Why?
wrong.
Like, but you had Julian Edelman next to him.
I know. I'm still.
Like I'm talking about because he was
Okay.
a failed coach.
Yeah.
Like you're judging him as a player.
I agree, but
I was more thinking of it along the lines of like, would the committee vote him as a finalist? Because what the fans vote for is what the fans vote for.
Right.
But like, would he be worthy of being in?
oh, that I
And-
think the
yeah.
committee would still nominate him.
Well,
That-
then I
that's
don't
no
think,
doubt.
Then I don't think that maybe in the public court of public opinion it would hurt his status. But I'm really more concerned about who the committee actually nominates because I think they know a little bit more.
They do, but the fans
Yeah.
are the ones that get him in ultimately.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the call. I smell my food, so I don't have COVID, and I'm ready to eat. So we'll take a break, and we'll be back after this. Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit FedEx.com/OneRate for details. Exclusions apply.
Hi. How are you? Good. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Mike. A video of Stefan Diggs has gotten a lot of traction in the last 24 hours or so. He's on a boat, having a good time, but the question comes in as to a certain substance that people are guessing what is and isn't. Is this something that the team has to look into?
Well, it's something that we're aware of, and obviously we want to make great decisions on and off the field. And we're hoping that with our time here on the field today, and that when we don't have a script and we're on the call-up periods, that we're making great decisions. And so the message will be the same for all our players, that we're trying to make great decisions, and any conversations that I've had with Stefan will remain between him and I and the club.
Have you talked to him since the video?
I talk to our players every single day, the ones that are here and the ones that aren't.
Are you expecting him to practice today, Mike?
Not if he's not here.
So he's not here.
You guys will find out in a minute. But no, again.
He was here last week. According to a video.
Everything that we're going to do, Karen, is we're going to coach the guys that show up at 8. And the ones that say, hey, I got a situation, we'll be here at 8:05. We'll coach those as well. This is a voluntary part of our off-season program. And every player that's not here, which there aren't many, have been in communication with me and their position coaches.
I was just going to ask, based on what you've seen from the times he's been around, how would you say he's progressing?
Again, the timelines and the prognosis and everything again, we're working hard to get him back and to be ready to go. But you know, when he's here, we'll coach him and we'll have everything ready to go.
Mike, any updates on Terrell?
No, just that he continues to, like our players, work hard to get back, and excited to have him back. Again, the communication that I see every day with him and the players in their meetings and in the Zoom meeting, and I know that he's excited, and hopefully we'll get him back here sooner rather than later.
Mike, last time we were out here for practice, Drake had a few interceptions. Do you care? How do you view moments like that on a practice field?
I think that I care about every player's performance and that we continue to improve, and that there has been great improvement over, the day. Everybody's going to have a bad day. There's a lot of reasons that, go into it. We're not going to analyze every single practice and have explanations for things that came up, but the command, the operation, all those things have continued to improve. And I don't know who asked me, but what I thought would be a successful day, and then sure enough, I told you those things weren't going to happen. So hopefully the operation, the communication today, the execution has got to be better. We only have so many of these opportunities, and I'm hopeful that in front of us, the crowd of media, that we have a better day.
Mike, do you feel like the defense, it's fair to say at this point, is further along in their install and process in the offense? And if so, how big is the gap there?
Well, I don't think that they're further along. I think that it's probably, this is hard. This is a hard time in the spring when every pass play is, 3rd and 10. I mean, it's just they're pass rushing, they're pressuring, they're blitzing, which is great. We have to be able to block and see everything, but it is a passing camp, and it didn't take the, Keon and KC and Christian and Milt and Harold long to figure that out. So it's kind of is what it is, which is good. And then again, they know how to practice. We have to be able to speed and pass rush, and then stay away from the quarterback, get out of the way, stay off the ground, all those things that they've been able to do over the course of, the first 4 OTAs.
We saw that Ramondre we talked about it last week, that he was absent, and then we saw a photo posted by the team that he was back at practice. Just what was it like to get him back in the mix of things?
Well, it's great to have everybody here. I want to support him through this process the best that we can, and that's probably a little bit more difficult. He doesn't know us as well, and so his communication, I appreciate it, and but it's great to have him back, and then we'll kind of work him along, make sure that he's ready to get out there. So I don't know how much you'll see him in some of the live team action. I don't think that's fair to him to just throw him back out there, but there's certainly a return to play like a lot of players will have throughout the course of the year.
When you have a wide receiver, there are a lot of new faces on the team this year, players, coaches. How much of a focus this spring is team building and just getting guys to learn each other, because there are so many new faces?
I think that's important. I think the execution is also important. The ability to work with another player out on the field, a guy next to you. Linemen are going to move around, have to pop in a different position. Quarterbacks are going to have to throw to different players. But I certainly think that part of this process of playing this game is about building relationships and connections with players and coaches alike.
Mike, will you have a leading voice in Drake's development this year?
I will have, I hope, a voice in every player's development on our football team.
I meant generally, would it be like you, would it be Josh? Do you guys have sort of one voice that's going to take the lead, or is it going to be more collaborative?
I think when I have something to say to Drake, I'll say it. And I think when Josh wants to put plays in that can help him or explain what the read is, there's going to be things that I'm not going to be as knowledgeable at when it relates to quarterbacks. But I think that there'll be some other things where I can help them. And, we don't have it scripted out. That's kind of our job, is to kind of figure out what to say and when to say it.
Mike, you have a lot of numbers in the wide receiver room. Over the course of time, how do you separate?
With the same number of everybody else in the National Football League.
Right, but how
we
do you,
addressed that last week.
When you watch these guys, what are you looking for that separates them from what you want?
Do they know what to do? Can they line up? Can they catch the ball? Can they help the quarterback? That they play and they finish and they transition when they don't, how fast they play when they don't have the football in their hands. So some of that stuff we can see in the spring, and a lot of that stuff will materialize once we get to training camp.
Mike, you got last year going into last year, Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar, were generally recognized as two of the better safety tandems in the league. Mapu's back there, you added Epps. We're going to talk to Peppers later on today. Do you feel good about that safety rotation? Are you sorting out how they're going to be, what they're going to do?
I don't think anybody's really sorted out anything as far as roles on this football team yet. I like the people. I like the players. I haven't seen Duggar on the field just because he's working through something, which is not uncommon in the spring. Love Jabril's energy. I like his passion for the game. I like his energy when he comes in the building. Those things are all very positive. And then the new players and the new additions are trying to carve out a role as well.
What's been your impression of Cole Strange so far? I saw it last week, sort of rotating at both guard spots as opposed to center. Just how has he done this early?
It's hard to really identify the alignment. It's a lot of pass protection, and it's a quick whistle, and there's no pads on. So again, Cole's working extremely hard. The versatility that he'll be able to display is something that'll be critical.
You mentioned some of the things you want to see out of wide receivers. Dan, what have you seen from Keyshawn Brady so far in that regard?
The same as everybody else, working hard. I think that he's gotten in better shape as we started to go on to the OTAs, and I think that's really started to help him as we stack plays together and we're trying to string in the game, you don't just take a play on and just come off and then go back and hopefully you can string together 4 or 5 plays as we work down the football field. So I think that he's working to do that, and I like his attitude. I enjoy his willingness to continue to improve and maybe do some things a little differently.
Mike, how have you liked the pace of practice? We've only been out here for one of them, but it looked like it was relatively intense. Or a couple guys on the field.
That means a lot coming from you, Phil. Thank you.
Pretty good gauge. I'm a pretty intense guy myself. But how do you strike the balance between you want guys to be competitive, but you also don't want guys?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest coach speak in the spring is you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. It's like compete but stay up. Compete, but the receiver has the right to the football. We can't go through the back of them. I think that the energy is there. I think the urgency is there. I like to see guys running off the field, coming out on the field to take the field, to be ready to go, breaking the huddle, lining up, having an urgency to which we practice, and I think all those things hopefully will lead to better execution.
Mike, there have been a lot of questions on observations about your involvement in practice. Watching the other day was interesting to see your coaching one-on-one with players from different backgrounds, different paths here, different positions. How important is it for you, I know this may sound obvious, to coach all 90 guys on your roster here and then into the summer?
Well, I think it's important. I think I enjoy it. I like it. I love it. I try to be as knowledgeable at every position as I possibly can, some more than others. We reference the quarterback. But having something at each position group that can maybe translate from my perspective to help the player. But then I also think that, where the head coach is probably what the players think are important. So I try to be a little bit everywhere.
Coaches, you implemented a new defensive scheme, but still with a lot of veterans. How do you feel the communication has been with these units early on in camp?
Good. I think that when we split the squad.
And now, great moments in history.
He used to fish with my grandfather.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah,
You never. Please tell.
I know that he had a 28-3 shirt that he sold.
Right.
I don't know that his grandfather used to fish with Ted Williams.
They all use Shakespeare rods with Ted Williams?
So my grandfather was a longtime track coach at Tufts from from the early 30s all the way until he died in the early 70s, and he developed a friendship with Ted Williams. There's some interesting newspaper articles that I've dug up that it's my grandfather. I never met him. He died before I was born. Clarence Ding Dussault. The track at Tufts is named after him, but they used to go. Him and Ted would go up to New Brunswick, where my grandfather did all his summers, and they would fish together, fly fishing. And this is the crazy story. John Henry Dussault Williams. They named his middle name is Dussault after my grandfather. You go to newspapers.com, you can do a lot of searching. I found one that's like, Dussault teaches the Red Sox how to run. So my grandfather went down to Florida and was talking to them about like speed and stuff. So he's got a whole story. I've got all his.
I got a feeling there's a lot of stories that Deuce isn't telling us about.
I'm getting through them slowly but surely, but that's one of the better ones.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is you're kind of a disappointment in your family.
That's another great moment from
Guys want some good news and bad news?
Sure.
Yeah.
You want the good news or the bad news first?
Bad news first.
Well, the bad news is football isn't back. But the good news, summer is upon us, and you can stock up on everything you need to kick back and relax with winning styles from Bob's Discount Furniture. Shop Bob's for the latest feature-packed media centers, made for summer movie nights, sleepover-friendly sofas, and sectionals with built-in pop-up sleepers. And Bob's signature mattresses made with cooling technology to keep you feeling chill and comfortable. So stop in and spend your summer with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. So, good stuff.
Yeah.
Paul's going to be back in the Bob's studio for preseason games, right?
Yeah, I do. I have to miss a game, Freddie.
You have to
do you
miss
know
a
how
game?
rare it is for me to miss a game?
No.
Wow.
But yeah, go
Where's
ahead.
your commitment?
When was the last time I missed a game?
Oh, you did.
Never.
You missed the whole
No,
Super Bowl.
I missed
You were
the
sick for the Bills
AFC
game.
Championship game, but I got it through that game.
You did.
You played hurt.
and it was also COVID, so we couldn't be in the stadium.
You had COVID during that?
No, I didn't have COVID.
Oh, no, but
it was
there
during
was
It
COVID
was the
generally
Monday night game
prevalent.
during the COVID season.
Right.
I think that's why
I
Paul's
believe
losing weight.
the 04 AFC Championship
died.
game and the Super Bowl. I think were the only two games that I ever missed.
Oh.
And I have to miss the Minnesota preseason game.
Wow.
Okay.
Saturday.
1 o'clock game.
Sad without you.
It is.
Sunday at
that's
1?
how much they're out to get me. I get a day game, which is perfect, and I have to miss it.
Yep, unbelievably good.
And moving TJ into school.
I'm telling you, the run-out song topic, people are still emailing.
I'm like now just want to see the newsletter tomorrow to see Deuce's.
Well,
he
these
has
were
this,
our
like-
own personal.
Yeah, but
walkout
everybody
songs.
knows what like mine would be. Like there's only 4 or 5 options. You can kind of figure out what mine would be.
Okay. Barry Manilow.
You're
No
wrong,
Barry
and I'll tell you
Manilow
why.
after last night?
It's not really
Copacabana.
run out songs with Barry Manilow. I mean, they're great ballads, but
They're great.
no, you go Earth, Wind and Fire, Donna Summer. I mean, the Commodores. There's not that many options.
No.
But Deuce is a mystery. I have no
Soundtrack.
idea what this. I'm intrigued.
I think I mentioned it on the show, so I don't want to build it up too much. But
Too bad Moss isn't still on the team because we could have, oh, Randy, you came and you gave without thinking.
That was unbelievable last night, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Mandy brought the house down.
Mandy was good.
Were you crying?
Was I crying?
Yeah,
No.
did you bring tears to your eyes?
I mean, I enjoyed the Barry
Get the
Manilow
chills.
concert.
Yeah.
No, I was not crying.
His own thing going on.
like that? You couldn't
No.
drag me to that.
I'm telling you, it was a lot of fun. And that night, I went with No Socks and Mike Reese and my wife, Mike's wife.
Patriots royalty, really.
I know. Did you guys get recognized?
Mike's, of course we did. What are you kidding me?
I mean,
was
how
with-
many
I was with
selfies
Mike
did you
Reese.
take with
Didn't I
fans?
say I was with Mike Reese?
Where was this? At the Kowloon?
The garden.
What? At the garden? Oh.
It's just an actual garden.
No, you're
in
really
someone's
showing your
backyard.
ignorance now.
Am I showing my
showing your
ignorance or my
ignorance now.
disdain for Barry Manilow?
Disrespectful.
All of it, it's one and the same.
It's Manilow.
It's Manilow.
Why am I so Manilow?
Did you know you rated
Barry
Manilow's
Mandalorian.
wardrobe?
Yeah. That's a good one. I don't know what I'm talking.
But anyway, it was a great time. And I'll tell you, he's like 81 years old.
Yeah.
Stuck rocks.
He was out there for about almost 2 hours, just
Yeah.
playing all the hits, Freddie. Mandy, even now.
I know he had a lot
I
of
made it
hits,
through
but
the
I wasn't
rain.
into him when he was
He lost me after Mandy.
He's a Vegas residency guy, right? Like
I don't know. a lot
I
of
write
them.
the song. You don't know
I write
any
the
of these
songs. I know
songs?
write the songs. I like to write the songs.
Copacabana.
I
It's
do
a
like
miracle.
Copa.
I
I do
already
like
got three. I got
Copacabana.
three.
That's a banger.
Yeah.
Oh, I know all the songs. There's
Yeah,
no.
see,
Yeah.
At least you're being honest with
Yeah.
yourself.
I-
Deuce is pretending
You know
he
what?
doesn't know
You know
these
what's even
songs.
crazier? Paul didn't even drink at it.
I didn't.
No?
Imagine Barry Manilow sober.
Not even Geritol?
DD.
I had a couple of Diet Cokes. So this is the thing that really stood out to No Socks and I.
Right over.
I heard you. This is the thing that really stood out, though. I was fully anticipating being among the youngest people in this crowd. Yeah, I figured there's going to be a lot of like 75 and up.
Yeah.
There were a lot of young people there.
Yeah.
Were they with their parents?
Probably in some cases. Yeah, like Mike Reese took his dad.
Yep.
Roy Reese was there. It was great to see Roy.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a huge
Roy
fan
Reese.
of all of our Patriots content, by the way.
I'm sure. But like I think
there were a lot
Barry
of young people
Manilow,
there. I
like
was stunned.
Like when Tony Bennett was doing his duet, like all the young people were like, all of a sudden Tony Bennett was like,
with Lady
oh.
Gaga.
Yeah, it was just because
Yeah.
Lady Gaga. No, you didn't do it, Tony Bennett.
So now you're disparaging Tony Bennett.
Overrated.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, overrated. Yeah.
Who's rated?
Yeah,
Just
who's your
out of
guy?
curiosity.
Sinatra.
Okay.
Sinatra
Frank.
is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But like
Go.
Tony Bennett is overrated.
No, but all of a sudden he had this resurgence because he was doing duets with younger people.
Lady Gaga.
With Lady Gaga.
Well, what's wrong with that?
I wasn't into
Game
it.
in the system.
I wasn't into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barry Manilow didn't gain the system.
No, he didn't have to. He's got the.
No,
he's got the
his-
catalog.
Still killing it
He's
after
got his
all
own.
these years.
He's got his own hits. You know.
I'm just laughing. Paul's like, we thought we'd be the oldest people there. There were plenty of people there in their 50s.
Right.
I didn't say 50s. There were younger people than me, and I was
There are
not
people my
anticipating
age
that.
there.
Huh?
There are a lot of people my age there.
Yeah.
A lot.
I saw a lot of
There
people
were
on
a
the
lot.
Instagram
Ironically.
That
stories.
bothers me.
I was stunned.
Like,
Why?
You don't know Barry Manilow. Like,
Well, maybe
I'm
they
an old
do.
soul.
And, you know,
No,
it was a
Well,
sing along
they're,
thing, right?
They're like Mike, and they pretend they don't know the songs. Because it's not.
But they
cool.
know. They know.
Were people singing along?
I was singing.
Hell
along.
yeah.
There was only like 2 songs that I didn't know.
I get this picture Paul singing. What were you wearing? What were you?
His sequin shirt.
Coincidentally, the
He had
same
the
thing.
Copacabana shirt, you know, with
Button down to the-
It's going to come as a big surprise, but I was
Like
wearing the
Carmen
same exact
Miranda.
thing that I wore watching the OTA practice yesterday. A pair of jeans and a polo.
Quarter zip.
What were you
Quarter zip. It was
wearing?
warm out yesterday.
It was wonderful.
looks
Very
like
versatile wardrobe.
Zsa Zsa Gabor.
You're just like babbling words now that don't make any sense.
I'm thinking of like old
conceptually.
female, you know,
Carol Channing.
extravagant.
Carol
you know,
Channing.
Yeah.
Carol Channing.
Who was the one that was like, oh, she was Latin and
Ethel Merman?
Oh,
no.
Charo.
Charo, not
Zdeno
Chara.
Chara?
Chara, good
Zdeno
defenseman.
Chara.
Yeah, Charo.
She was not 6'8".
He played for the Bruins.
So, yeah, I would not go to that. I just would
What about
not
Neil
go.
Diamond?
Nope.
No?
See, now
I'd
Neil
be at-
Diamond's a
I'd be
little
at
more
Neil
mainstream.
Diamond too. Like in a blink.
Yeah.
We could talk.
Oh,
Neil
do you know
Diamond.
those songs,
I would,
Mike?
I do.
Those aren't ones that you pretend
Coming
to
to
know.
America,
Crack
Crack
and
and
Rose.
Rosie.
I don't really
Yeah.
know though. I'm not being facetious about my lack of knowledge of Barry Manilow. I think I write the
But
songs.
I just,
Copacabana.
but I
You
named,
know every
I named
one of
like
them.
5
Probably if you
songs, and
said
you're just like, I know
Yeah.
that one, I know that
Yeah.
one. Oh, I didn't know that one. You know more than you think. And then
Yeah.
if you hear like Springtime in New England, if you heard it, you definitely know it.
Probably. But I think
seen
Neil Diamond.
I've seen Neil
off the
Diamond a
top.
couple times.
Yeah.
Who would you rather go to? Neil Diamond or James Taylor?
Neil
Oh,
Diamond.
Neil Diamond.
Oh, I love James Taylor.
You're from
I would
Western Mass.
say
You have to say
Tanglewood,
that.
yeah.
See, without knowing, I would guess that Neil Diamond would put on a good show too, but Manilow put on a really good show. It was like kind of Vegas,
Yeah,
Broadway-ish.
sure, yeah.
My guess is Neil Diamond would do that too.
Yeah.
And I would put James Taylor third.
No,
Now, I like
Neil
a lot of
Diamond's
James
not
Taylor.
very
James
songs.
Taylor would be a snooze
It was
fest.
snooze.
But I don't think it would be
Yeah.
that entertaining. But I do like a lot of his songs.
Yeah.
Neil Diamond wasn't very.
Do you not know any of those?
I
either,
love
Mike?
him. Cracklin' Rosa, get
That's
on
Neil
board.
Diamond. How
Oh,
about James
sorry.
Taylor?
Oh yeah. Sweet Baby James.
I'm the only. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Look
Sweet
at
Baby
you.
Caroline
James.
in my mind.
Yeah. I dated a girl from Western Mass, and so again, if you grow up
Does
in Western Mass,
Tanglewood every 4th of
you have to
July.
love
She
James
loves it.
Taylor.
Loves
I
it.
dated a woman once before I got married. Yeah.
Poor Lane.
I saw him on the Vineyard
another
once
notch on the
too.
hill.
As Felger would say, there's your Manilow minute. You can move on.
All right, 855 PATS 500 is the hotline. Let's go to the hotline. Vinny's in Vegas. What's up, Vinny?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Hey,
Hey, I love the show. I've listened for a long time, but it's always about the small moments. When Deuce was talking about the villain in Cobra yesterday, and he was talking about how the guy
Scary, right?
scared him.
Yeah.
Paul says, just quietly says, not as much as you scare me. Right? And I was just cracking up. I do have a question for you guys. Is the linebacker a sneaky concern when it comes to depth and I don't know, having enough bodies or enough good guys there?
This is a great question, Vinny, because it really dovetails nicely into Mike Dussault's.
Thanks, Vinny.
During the break.
Half-baked take.
Half-baked take.
Half
That's a good
baked.
one. I like
was
that.
Good. That was good.
We need
good rhyming.
a theme for that.
So what do you think,
Yeah.
Mike?
I mean, I'm not overly concerned at the moment because I think they're going to play less linebackers and it's not the big,
Play less
with
linebackers
Bill.
than 2?
Well, yeah, well, that's what I mean. But like Bill's defense, you felt like you needed 6 or 5 you
Well,
needed
we
stand
have
up
more than
outside
2
guys. You
linebackers
needed
right
more.
now.
No. But they only play 2. Like in the last 5 years, they only played like 2 guys
I
at
know,
a time.
I know.
I mean, back in like the early part of the dynasty, they had
It's
4.
become a
but
diminished position.
I do
You
worry.
need 4 on the roster from a depth standpoint.
I do worry about the depth
So right
at
now you got
linebacker.
Tavai, Ellis,
Yeah.
Spillane,
Bobby
Yeah, and,
Spillane,
and
Jack Gibbons.
and
Jack Gibbons,
That's
right.
kind of the 4
Yeah.
inside. I
And-
mean, piggyback. Anthony Jennings kind of seems like a man without a country right now a little bit. Like I'm not sure exactly how he fits into
I
things.
consider him an outside linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, and that's but that's
I
not
consider him more
really
of an
what
end.
they're going to play. But I don't know. Do we want to get into the whole thing of like tackling machines and all that we were getting into?
Well,
in the
I
off-air
would say that
conversation?
my concern would be if something were to happen to Spillane.
Yeah, for sure.
You're talking about depth, so if
Yeah.
you're depth by definition is what happens when the starter is out.
Yeah.
Do you have enough behind him?
Well, listen, last year I know there were a lot of problems, but
When Bentley went out,
down,
you had
it hurt
problems.
us.
Huge.
Yeah, it hurt.
And I think you'd have a similar problem if Spillane went down.
Yeah, their linebacker play last year, especially against the run, was rough at times. Like the fits, all
It's like teach tape
taking
in
on
the,
blocks
in the wrong direction.
Yeah, like they
Yeah.
were just getting eclipsed left and right.
Eclipsed. I love it. That's
And
exactly what it was.
That would, but I think in
ball nowhere talking.
Eclipse. I haven't heard that. That's apt.
in two, like one, I think the position as a whole has been devalued across the league, and like so I don't think that you necessarily need the days of like, oh, we have Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher and like these great Hall of Fame caliber linebackers. Like I don't know if you necessarily need that anymore. So I'm not worried about it from that standpoint. But to Paul's point, like if Bobby Spillane goes down, I mean, what?
Well,
Are you happy with Christian Ellis kind of being your starting Mike? Or
That's exactly that. I mean, and I think Christian Ellis, it looks like he's gonna have a role on defense this year. Like going in, it isn't
Yeah.
going to be part of the insert him into the mix because people got injured. And in that respect, I think he needs to show some real strides this year. I would put it down as a long-term need for sure. Like I would say, draft next year, you're looking to try to reinforce that position. But it all goes through Spillane, and I think you're totally right. And if he's good, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, and we this started because Mike was we were coming off of like the caller who asked
The
about
Mayo
Gerard
comment.
Mayo and
Yeah.
what he was like as a player. Is Spillane a guy who compiles a lot of tackles, or is he a guy who makes a lot of plays? And we'll find out because
That's
we're
a great way to
we're
put
not
it.
as familiar with his game. We obviously knew of him with the Raiders, but is he more of Bentley, Mayo, kind of heady, well-schooled inside linebacker who's going to make a lot of tackles, or is it Roquan Smith, like these athletic guys that are sideline to sideline making plays? Evan talked about his instincts yesterday that showed up on the OTA practice field, which I totally agree with Evan about. He was with Travion Henderson as he was catching balls, like 3 different times.
Yeah.
So almost to the point where you're wondering, does he know what the plays are here, or is he just?
He's getting annoying.
Yeah.
To the offense.
I think it's a good question that Mike
It is.
asked.
I mean, and it goes back to Mayo. I think it was around Mayo where I started to question, like, is being a tackling machine necessarily like a great thing? I think you put it perfectly, Paul, with do you want a guy who makes a lot of tackle or a guy who makes plays? And I do think in Spillane's past couple years in the Raiders, you saw turnovers, you saw tackles for loss, plays behind the line of scrimmage, which is really positive. But it's just a hard place to be, where the way I kind of put it, and I don't know if this makes sense, is like, is he a guy who's going to just make sure that everything's right and doesn't, you don't get gashed for a huge play? He's going to make the tackle six yards down the field. Or is he the kind of guy that's going to get into the backfield and make some of the plays like it looked like he's capable of making with his recognition and speed?
And I think that's more what he is.
Yeah, and that's
he's
what
more
I think was
athletic
lacking
than what
to
they've
Evan's
had.
point about guys getting eclipsed, where that, you either have to know what's going to happen and get there first, or you just have to be so athletic that you beat everybody there physically first.
What will his role be, and will that be dependent on what style of defensive line they want? If they want to defensive line that gets up at it.
That's what it
Do they
seems
need
like.
him to
Yeah.
be that kind of gatekeeper behind them?
Right.
That's it. That's what I envision it's going to be. It's going to be Keon White, Christian Barmore, Milton Williams. You guys go hunting, and Robert Spillane is there to clean up the trash.
Right.
And when guys squeak out or they, it's going to be a little boomer bust. Keon White's going to fly into the backfield, and sometimes he's going to miss a shot, and then Robert Spillane is there so it's a 5-yard gain instead of a 25-yard gain. That sort of thing. He made a lot of plays again with the Raiders, and I think the number one thing that stood out to me when I watched him when they signed him in free agency is just he plays with his hair on fire. Like, this is a guy that has a red hot motor.
I think he lives his life that way.
Yeah, like he
Off
is.
the field, he's
You
that
are
way.
never going to question effort with him on a football field. So those types of plays, it might not be backfield plays, right? Like, it might not be tackles for loss, but there might be times where he chases down a running back, that's trying to turn the corner, and you see Bobby Spillane just streaking across the field and making the play where you say, wow, there he is, that sort of thing. I don't know if he's like a navigate the trash inside the trenches, like I'm going to maneuver around blocks, I'm going to, find the football. I don't know if that's necessarily his game. He's a, see ball, get ball, keep him clean kind of player.
Such a Vrabel kind of guy. And I've just been reinforced. I think at some point, I think it might have been the final mock draft they did where I took Will Campbell. It was just, this is a Vrabel kind of guy. And I think those things have bore out to me. Like guys like Spillane, guys like Will Campbell, you can tell what kind of guys Mike Vrabel wants on this team. And that's why even hearing from Peppers yesterday, throughout last year for him, I think he's kind of the guy that Vrabel likes. Vrabel talked about him a little bit, the energy he brings to the building, so that I think gives him a chance to stick.
I think it's an interesting, though, you said linebacker, like 2026 need potentially in the offseason. And they needed players at premium positions so badly, quarterback, left tackle, wide receiver, like those are premium positions where if you hit on all those guys, if Will Campbell's a hit and Drake's a hit, then hopefully next offseason you can go draft a middle linebacker high. You can draft a tight end high.
Yeah,
you can
edge.
draft an edge rusher or like a nickel corner or like these positions that aren't as valuable, and that's exactly what ended up happening for the Lions. Like the Lions they got Aiden Hutchinson, they got Jared Goff, they got Penny Sewell, and then the next draft it was Gibbs, it was Jack Campbell, it was Sam Laporta, it was Brian Branch, and that's how you kind of build out the roster.
Just to take that too, Ev, I thought, what you wrote about the guys up front, kind of the veterans up front, just interesting to me watching Elijah Ponder and Braden Swinson, who are more in the opportunity level of guys right now. So can one of those guys emerge and crack their way into the rotation as a pass rusher? That's something that's kind of pinged my radar over these first couple practices.
Travis in West Virginia wants to know if we'd ever be willing to publish data after each show on the total number of emails we received and how many were read and how many were ignored. For example, today we received 18 emails, read 3, ignored the other 15. I mean,
the numbers would be much higher than that.
Oh yeah, yeah. We get a ton of emails, and I get to a fraction of them. I was thinking at one point of putting all the emails we didn't read in a place where other people you could just read them. But like if you, what's the point there? Just reading emails without answers.
Yeah. How many gems do you really miss?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
it's like it'd be like Reddit. Just post your email on like Reddit. There's a PU subreddit. Just put them there.
There is.
Oh, geez.
I like the Reddit.
And then
Nate
Talk amongst
Northeast
yourselves.
Pennsylvania writes in off-season topics only for me. Sorry, Evan. 1, why are Fred and Paul wearing the same shirt? They're similar shirts.
They're very similar.
We did not call last night to see what each were wearing.
Sure about that?
Mine fits though.
Wow.
Mr. Skinny Pants over
I
there.
know.
It also doesn't have any
He looks like
stains.
yeah, Fred got a lunch stain on it.
he looks like the
No
lead
tie
singer of
pen.
Talking Heads, and he's talking to me like it doesn't.
Oh, with the big suit.
Fits me. I don't know why you keep saying it doesn't
it's
fit.
too loose.
It is not too
It's
loose.
not today's style.
It's not today's.
I'm not young enough to wear today's style.
Why not?
Because that's for the young kids.
You
to
are
wear.
starting to look younger. I'm telling you. You go to
Stop it.
one of those guys, Dr. DeFelici, and get your hair in, and you'll be fine. Whatever they call themselves.
Dr. Robert Leonard.
Yeah.
Robert Leonard.
There's one.
Yeah.
That is one.
Yeah.
Go see the hair doctor.
Yeah. You'll be hosting shows on NBC Sports
But
Boston.
no one wants me. I mean, it's pretty apparent.
It's like that guy Brian Johnson that like
Including
has the
this place.
biological age of a 25-year-old, but he's in his 40s.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I call BS on those things.
Who?
Like we hear about, like I hear about this all the time. Like, oh, like so this like person is like actually 70, but biologically they're only 25. Like, nope, they're 70.
They're jacked.
Yeah,
still.
no, not buying it.
Well, okay. I
Yeah.
don't want to get into it, but anyway. 2, do you have a rough idea the number of listeners PU has? Well,
We have
a lot.
We have more than a rough idea.
We have more listeners than a lot of towns and cities in the United States.
Thousands.
Humble brag.
Yeah. Lots. More than thousands. Yeah.
Tens of thousands.
3, when are we going to see the faces of the popular callers and listeners?
Oh, yeah, we gotta do that.
I have a picture in my mind of how Christian in L.A. looks. I picture a dark turtleneck and slick black hair and sunglasses similar to Todd from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
We're gonna do that pretty soon.
I don't know, Margot.
We're gonna do that soon.
Those
It's
pictures
just-
are
there's-
scary, people. I mean, come on.
There's been. I'm waiting for like the real dead period, like
getting
maybe
there.
early July.
Yeah.
After the 4th.
Yeah.
Before training camp
After
gets ramped
minicamp,
up. Yeah.
Lizzie writes, no, that's something else. Tyler in Ludlow writes in, if there were to be a true NFL minor league with players that had contracts with NFL teams, I think it would give a considerable bump to interest in the league. But for fantasy football players like myself, having a spring league with fantasy platforms would scratch that itch we have in the off season and
That
keep
was not
even
the point.
casual fans interested. Fantasy football spring league, huh?
That wasn't the point, but you do you. If that's why you're into it, then all the power to it. It's more revenue for my fake league.
We
so
should
I'm all
probably
for it.
mention it. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that David Andrews will be announcing his retirement on Monday. There'll be a whole
Press conference.
press conference for him.
Here in
3:30.
Foxborough.
We'll have that live. Patriots.com.
David Andrews.
David Andrews deciding to retire.
Yep. Now a game. Which of these two players would win most consistently in a one-on-one matchup in their prime? John Hanna versus Vince Wilfork.
Vince Wilfork.
Wow, Hanna.
It's hard.
But Hanna was
he's
like
not 260, right?
That's why
it's the differences in size.
That's why I'm saying Vince Wilfork.
Can I say John Hanna with today's like?
Right. It's not a 200,
nutrition
300 pound
and whatnot?
today guard.
Yeah. I think John Hanna was a better player than Vince Wilfork.
Agreed.
Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. He was a Hall of
But
Famer.
mano y mano, it's going to the beef.
Yeah, because Evan's right. I think he
330 versus
maybe
260.
played at like 280.
Yeah.
I think Vince played at like 400, not
Well, according to Ted.
Point blank.
Oh, Ted.
They
knows.
got him like his ideal playing weight, all things considered, like balanced nutrition, 325.
Well, that's what it said in the media guide.
Well, that's what they tried to get him to.
There's no way. He played at
Granted, he was way
325.
higher than that
Okay.
when Ted
was
before
life's
Ted started
accomplishment.
working with him.
Matt Light versus Matthew Judon.
Oh, that's a pretty even one.
I'd say 50-50. They split.
Yeah, that's an even one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I don't think Judon was as like the Jason Taylor, like the really athletic edge rushers gave Matt Light a hard
They
time.
gave everybody a hard
But
time.
he was pretty good, I think, with just because I don't think Judon was that dynamic. He was a good edge rusher, but not like Jason Taylor or Dwight Freeney or those guys.
Yeah.
Aaron Dobson versus Cyrus Jones.
That's
Dobson.
Aaron Dobson.
I'm going to say Aaron
Got
Dobson.
some balls.
Yeah.
He's tall.
Contested catches.
Devin McCourty
McCurdy.
and Ben Coates.
Oh.
Coates.
Ben Coates.
Yeah.
Coates.
In their prime.
Coates was a really good receiving
yeah.
tight
Coates
end.
was awesome.
Yeah.
I wish that Coates played now. Like if Coates played now, like he would be one of the best tight ends in the league, I would think.
Christian Gonzalez versus Julian Edelman.
Ooh, such different types of players. Like one's an outside corner, one's a slot receiver.
I'd say Edelman because of what Evan just said. It's kind of a
He's going to get open.
it's when I used to make fun of Andy. You would always say that's a tough matchup, and I would say what a cornerback against a wide receiver, and I know what Andy was meaning. Like he's a taller outside corner who's looking to get.
Yeah.
You tell me A.J. Brown against Christian Gonzalez, I might take Gonzalez there, but Edelman's shifty and he's in space.
Does it depend on who's
Short
throwing the
area
ball
quickness.
for Edelman to win that matchup?
No, does he get open or not?
Yeah.
You win the matchup by getting open.
I know. Well, but you think about it in a bubble. We watch that drill all the time, and it's pretty much wide receiver wins every single
Every time.
Yeah.
if you're telling me that, all right, there are going to be 11 guys on the field and Gonzalez is in the slot versus him, it's still a tough matchup.
But even when you see those one-on-ones, right? We watch them all the time, and we always chart them, right?
Yeah.
When they go downfield, the cornerbacks have a much better chance. But when it's the short area quickness and little jerk routes, like
TikTok routes.
Yeah.
That's what we call it.
Corey Dillon versus Dante Hightower.
All know we're talking.
TikTok routes, like, oh yeah, you're gonna break 5 times before you actually run the route. Like, yeah, great, cool. Sorry.
Corey Dillon versus Dante Hightower.
Oh gosh.
That's another good one.
That is two very,
I mean, like in the hole, like in what sense? Like,
that's a hard.
Is he carrying the football? Is he covering him?
Like, would Corey Dillon break Dante Hightower's tackle more often than not? I would probably say no.
I'm going Hightower. He tackled Marshawn Lynch with one arm. So
I don't know. No, I might go with Dillon here.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a good one.
Yeah. Tom Brady versus Brian Urlacher.
Well, we already saw that.
Right, we know who won.
Yeah.
Right. And my song of choice for a run out would be "The Boys Are Back in Town" by Thin Lizzy. Oh, you had such a good game, and then you ruined it with that song choice.
Wow.
The boys are back in town. Oh, come on. That gets you hyped up?
No.
Come on.
No.
Really?
It's not my
I'm
bag.
asking
That's
you.
not my bag, baby.
I'm asking you. If you heard that like before the guys run out, would you be like, all right?
I don't think of that as.
No, come on.
I was thinking about this a tiny bit, and I don't want to derail it, but I was just wondering, like, what if you just stuck with Crazy Train? You've had it.
That's
it's
a bold
established.
take.
What a concept.
Or Welcome to the Jungle.
Welcome to the Jungle. That's
No.
a good
No
one.
one's ever done it.
Can't do that one.
You've been
Really?
doing Crazy Trains.
I'm kidding.
That's
Everybody
selfish.
does it.
Seems like the Bengals should get all over
Everybody
that.
does it.
Oh, I know the Bengals for sure, but the program, that movie did it right with the Welcome to the Jungle. That practice sequence, Welcome to the Jungle. That to me, I always get. You know what I'm talking about? The program.
Yeah. Put the
Latimer?
women and kids. Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah.
What are you?
You're staring at me like I
Don't disrespect me like
You
that. I don't
you
pretend that I
forget
don't
movie
know.
scenes
I don't
like that.
pretend I don't know movies that everybody knows.
Welcome to the Jungle is a Celtics
except for the
song in
Terminator.
Why? Jungle?
Yeah, because KG called the garden the jungle one time, and so then they started playing Welcome to the Jungle, and then it's been the song. Right before tip off, they play it every single time.
There you
go.
Yeah. Do they still do that? Really?
Yeah.
Evan's still catching strays from his music taste. Ben from Hershey, Pennsylvania. Evan's taste in music is classic nostalgia bias with a hint of cultural gatekeeping. Two psychological phenomena
I agree with both
which
of those
impact our perception of music and close us off from hearing new music subjectively.
Okay,
Human
Socrates.
beings genuinely believe the music we grew up with listening in to between the ages of 12 and 22 is the best music because those are the years of life when we have the most
didn't say that,
formative
though.
experiences and make our deepest rooted memories. We reject new music we're exposed to, even if widely praised. Furthermore, Evan's categorization of Sandstorm as dubstep should disqualify him from any conversation about modern music. Sandstorm is as much dubstep song as Taylor Swift is heavy metal.
Evan, plead the fifth, quick.
Sandstorm is literally it's electronic music, like it's house music. Like there's no words to the song; it's just the beat.
I have no idea what.
I don't know what it is.
It's. I mean, I grew up on Sandstorm, so. But yeah, I don't even think my generation is the best type of music. I think your guys' generation is the best kind of music. So I disagree with that whole email. I don't think that it has anything to do with my type of music.
So when you were growing up, did your dad play a lot of music?
100%.
So that's why you.
Every
that proves his theory.
But no, his theory is that the music that came out when I was 12 to 20 is
No, the
best.
music you listened to when you were 12 to 20.
So, but I would push
But
back
I
and
listen to
say
both kinds.
I would definitely fall into that category of that. The reason I love disco is because that's my formative
Right.
music. Okay, but I am not closed off to today's music. I don't know Sandstorm or whatever that he's. But like,
That's
how many
definitely
times
not
have we
today.
talked about Taylor Swift and what's popular now? Like, I think a lot of this stuff is great.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of older people. I know when I was growing up, older people are like, "Oh, that crap that you listen to."
Right, the Beatles with the long hair.
I don't hear people my age say that crap that people listen to nowadays. I hear a lot of people that like this stuff that comes out in different genres, not just like the top 40 stuff, but how many people talk about the rap stuff that's out now? Kendrick, a lot of people liked it at the Super Bowl. A lot of people didn't like it. I don't think I think he's painting with a broad brush.
I think there's something to it.
No, there is something to what you remember and
Yeah.
what we're formed on
Yeah.
sticks with you. There's definitely something to that, but I don't think that automatically means you shut yourself off to anything else.
There's also just so many new, like, the way people find new music is so different now with streaming, and there's so much of it. So there's a lot of great music that's coming out, but it's harder to find. You have to kind of put time and effort into it. Whereas like the stuff that's on top 40 pop is just like annoying frequency music that it's like you get sick of it and you're bored of it. But
You're
if
a
you
little tired
really
of Pink Pony Club?
But I don't
Yeah.
feel like
Never.
the top 40
Never.
stuff, like, you know, we don't, at least I don't, like, drive around listening to the radio
Right.
like I used to when I was younger.
Right, like
'Cause
in the
that-
90s.
Right, because now you just put on your
Spotify,
whatever you,
Apple Music,
however
whatever
you
you're
stream
Well,
it.
streaming
it's sort of like being a fan. Like you grew up with a certain group of athletes who you know, and you don't know the Babe Ruths and all the, you know. So is it kind of the same thing where it's what you grew up knowing and these were the best?
Right, but
because-
like in my opinion, like to go into that, what the 12 through 20 age thing, like to me that would say that I would say that like the best rock band of all time was Green Day, right? Because that was when that was my age, but I don't think that.
No, because your father
You were
introduced you to like
exposed
the
to
Bee
other
Gees
things.
and
But like
older stuff.
but even if my father didn't expose that to me, I still wouldn't say that.
Why?
Why? Because
How
like
would you
there's
know about the other?
Well, that's how I
What do you-
feel
I mean,
about
how-
rap.
because
I think
you
when
know.
you and I
don't
were in
know.
middle and high school and like early college, that's the best hip hop. Probably a little before that too.
Yeah.
And R&B. Now I don't know the last time I really liked a rap song that came out.
That's
Maybe like a
not-
little like Isaiah Rashad was probably the last one. I was like, oh, I really
Yeah.
like this song.
J. Cole.
Well, unfortunately, a lot
Well,
of
that's
now,
what I'm talking about. That's me early college.
a lot of it now is mumble rap, and
Yeah.
and I have
But
no,
whereas I think
I have no time for
there's
that.
some great,
That's not
there's
a
some
coined
great
phrase.
like
I've never heard that
indie
before. Mumble
singer
rap?
You gotta start
songwriter
pretending not to
alternative
know
stuff
things.
that's coming out now.
Yeah.
I was in a T-Mobile or one of those phone stores, Verizon, and I was just making fun of Drake, and I'm like, "Oh, Drake is mumble rap," and the guy behind it, he is not. Oh, he got so
I didn't know
offended.
that definitely not mumble rap,
Yeah.
but
Drake's not mumble rap.
I know.
he's pop rap. Is what
I have
he
no
is.
idea. You know, I don't know who is mumble rap. Yeah.
But you guys are lucky. Like you don't know what it's like to go to Strawberries and like you can't listen to anything. You just look
I
at like
don't know
the
what that's
CD
like.
case. No, I'm saying these guys.
Well,
I went
we
to-
didn't
we
know.
got
It was the
CDs.
Everett Music Store.
When you go like
The last time
how did you
Tower
pick music? Like
the
how
last
did you
time
know?
I
Tower
bought a
Records,
CD at FYE
Yeah.
was I think I was a junior in high school because I had a license.
You just like the artwork
Me and
on
my
it. And you're
no,
like that's
I forget what album. I think it was honestly a Taylor Swift, the Red album. Me and my friend Sierra got in the car after school, drove to the mall, and
That tracks.
that's the last time I. Oh no, I bought a Casey Musgraves album.
But like we were lucky.
It was
'cause
high school though. Like we
got
me
in
and
on
Evan
that
were on the
tail end of
cusp. We had the best of it all.
Yeah, we
had-
got like my cousins who are like 10 years younger than I am. Like they have no idea what we're
Yeah.
talking about
I
right
had
now. And
cassettes.
that's upsetting.
Yeah.
Like that's too bad.
I had cassettes. I had
and-
CDs. We had
Albums.
the pirating LimeWire days,
I
which
LimeWire.
was
Best.
my heyday.
the best.
I don't
And
even know
then
what that is.
streaming
Oh, yeah.
we have now.
Napster.
That's
Who
when
was
you would steal
who was the
Napster.
guy that Napster?
Napster,
Yeah,
yeah.
Napster
the
and
Northeastern guy.
LimeWire were
Yeah,
like the
Sean-
two
Sean
big ones.
Sean
Parker.
Yeah, but we had that. You know, we bought CDs. We like I had a cassette player. I think the
Had a
Eminem show. I had
Walkman.
it on a cassette.
Yeah.
Did you ever get a cassette single? I bought a couple cassette singles when I don't know. It's
No.
crazy.
That didn't
I had Return of the Mac.
love
Cassette
that.
single.
So I
Love
Just want the
that.
single.
I remember
For
my
the parties,
first, my
right?
first cassette. It was the Partridge Family. I think I love you. Isn't that what life is made for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of singing in this
Yeah.
last couple episodes.
My parents are
I love it.
Partridge Family people. We listen to that a lot.
I don't think I ever bought a CD. I had a million of them, but I didn't buy any.
It was the worst
Oh.
because you had the CD,
Oh, yeah,
the portable
giant,
CD player,
Yeah.
but then you also had to bring all your CDs with you.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Giant
like
case.
you had a case with
I
the
still
CD.
have
Oh,
mine.
your car would be littered with
it was
CDs
such
all
a
The
pain
best
in the
was
butt.
burning your own.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh.
Stealing the music
Yeah.
from LimeWire,
Yeah.
burning
Yep.
your own
Oh, yeah.
CD, and
Live
then
that.
writing in
Yeah,
Sharpie.
my
Oh,
sister had
I
one,
still have
had like
all
a CD
those.
burner that my parents bought her for like a present, and we would do that all the time. Just and then
Yeah.
we'd have to write like what you like on on it, like what you
But-
put on
but
it, and
I mean, you did CDs, but we would make mixtapes.
Yeah, mixtapes.
Right.
But you don't do that. Like, do people do like a
kids don't do-
Spotify mix for a friend?
Yeah,
you do
no,
that
you
stuff?
use
People
straight
do,
playlists.
but-
Is it
Yeah.
common to be like, oh, I want to make a playlist for
Yes,
my girlfriend
it
or
is.
somebody have a question? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's
So,
what
Juice, when you drove out to Western Mass, did you do so with a mixtape?
Wow.
Do you burn that girl some James
Paul,
Taylor
you just
cassettes?
nailed it. You nailed that 100%. I 1,000% had to like driving out to see Laurie mix, you know, like because it's a long
The name
Oh my
drop.
God!
Oh, wait a minute.
That's taking it to another level.
Correct. I wasn't even thinking.
getting in the mood.
This was for you to get in the mood. This wasn't like a mixtape you
Driving
made
out
for
to
her.
see Lori mix to get you in the mood.
My first girlfriend.
Oh, it's better than
I was
an
very
ED pill.
excited.
little Marvin Gaye on there,
A little Dave Matthews, you know, it was like 95.
Crash into me, Dave Matthews fan.
Sounds like it might have been a little emo.
So I had a playlist called Corn, and Corn stood for
K?
corny.
Yeah,
And it
that's
was
still
like
a thing.
Gordon Lightfoot and the Carpenters.
Oh, I loved the Carpenters. That was one of my first cassettes.
What, Paul?
It's good stuff.
Corn. Yeah,
Carpenters were so good.
The Carpenter,
it's
like,
a little
It was all my
corny,
corny stuff.
Yeah.
So the Carpenters,
Right?
Richard Carpenter used to. I've seen like again these documentaries that you watch, and he was like, yeah, you know, everybody made fun of it, but everybody had it.
And they
Everybody
knew the
bought it.
words.
Everybody knew all the. We would be in concert, and everybody sang every song. But no one could ever admit that they liked it. No one ever admitted that they wanted it. But
That's like
all
Nickelback now.
All these albums that we sold, like
Nickelback
I'm
is
glad
like
that you were
a good
able to
one.
be mature enough to not care what the public perception was.
Sure, my corn mix.
Yeah.
I learned when I brought up all this music stuff. Apparently, Nickelback is like cool now. Like when I was growing up, Nickelback was Korn. Like that was like,
Yeah.
look at this
Really?
photograph. Like it's like, come on. Like, but like now, it's
But he's an objectively good musician and songwriter.
I'm not saying he's not. It just when we were growing up, that was like if you listen to Nickelback, you were kind of
I never subscribed to that. I was alternative. I was like, no, I think this is pretty. But I liked the Goo Goo Dolls. I liked that kind of.
yeah. I mean, like Creed was a
soft
little
rock
cooler.
type.
Like if you were, that was a little bit better.
Cowboys, right?
I mean,
So
halftime.
I make
one
fun of all of those.
One of the best halftime shows of all time, easily top 5.
Will's been getting into that.
Creed?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Creed's
He's like,
great.
you had all this great
Creed's
stuff. I
having
was
a
like, yeah, I
moment
didn't
too
care for it.
Creed
with the
is
kids.
fantastic.
Yeah, having a moment on TikTok
Arms
with
wide
the kids.
open.
For the
Yeah,
kids.
classic. Yeah. So
Just
so
so
good.
bad.
No.
Oh God.
Classic.
Tyler in Georgia says, "Hey Paul, the jerk route call. They're all out of you." That's a Seinfeld reference.
That was a reference to my jerk route.
I
comment.
know. I know.
I liked it.
Tyler in Ludlow, big props to the emailer that just called out Evan for calling Sandstorm dubstep. Dubstep
Call
is
it whatever you want. I don't care.
Dubstep is a subgenre of electronic dance
Thank you.
music.
Okay, thank you for
and
the
Sandstorm
information.
falls into the trance subgenre. If an
Yeah,
electronic
Evan.
song doesn't have wubs and wobbles, it isn't dubstep.
Okay.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Like that kind of stuff.
Oh,
All I
DJs
know
now.
is that they played Sandstorm. It's all there's no lyrics. It's just the beat, and then you would like mosh pit in the middle of the dance floor, and it was we would all just like tackle each
Is
other.
that like
and stuff.
Tsunami? Kind of Tsunami? Tsunami did a big thing at the Army-Navy game where they started playing
Yeah,
Tsunami and the
maybe.
whole crowd was...
Yeah.
What would we think of like Daft Punk?
Daft Punk.
How would we classify that?
Like, what is that?
Electronic
is that Devo?
pop.
Alt rock.
Alt rock?
I would say so.
Something like that.
Electronic. Tony says Evan couldn't be more
Get
wrong
Lucky,
here.
by the way,
Dubstep is
tremendous
more
song.
in the vein of Skrillex.
Skrillex.
Oh.
Yep.
Sandstorm is more of a trance song. Also, the disrespect for 2000s alternative is a shame. I love me some Simon and Garfunkel, James Taylor, and ABBA, but no era of music is stronger than the 90s to 2000s alt indie. 80s takes the cake as the worst pop music era. Hair bands and ballads are awful.
So
some music.
That was my
I strongly
genre.
push back on
90s and 2000s
Like, I don't know
all.
how you can, if you like all different kinds of like Prince heyday is the 80s, and like you being extremely disrespectful to me to one of the most Michael Jackson. These are some of the most iconic artists ever. These are like heart of the 80s.
Madonna.
Like even Madonna.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Yeah.
I mean, if you like alt indie stuff
B-52s?
better,
Yeah,
like
U2.
that's perfectly acceptable. Like the 90s, all like. That's what you like, but
Like
to say that there was
Nirvana
nothing in the
stuff.
80s is ridiculous.
I love the 80s music. I think they have lots of great songs in the 80s.
Let's Go Crazy. Like Prince, Let's Go Crazy is like an incredible song.
Yeah.
You won't get any pushback on calling Prince a genius from the
He is a
music. From the
genius.
music.
Evan
folk.
had
I
this
feel like
epiphany
everybody's
recently.
Like,
He was just telling me.
Yeah, I've been getting into Prince. Not that I like didn't know Prince before, but got some bangers.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He was not familiar with his game.
No, I wasn't.
You weren't familiar with Prince?
I was familiar, but I wasn't
On
familiar.
the peripherals, but now he's
You
really
know?
diving deep.
Yeah.
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 Okay, Sean in South Burlington, speaking of Nickelback, he says his
Look
vote
at
for a
this
hype song is
photograph.
Burn It Down by Nickelback.
Okay.
I think it's funny how it's made a comeback. It really has.
I thought he was gonna be like, how's Marcus Jones looking out there?
Yeah.
Gonna tie it back to.
I think they've given up.
Guess not.
I like the music talk because I think it's so subjective. It's what you like, and
That's how I feel about music. I usually hate when people are like, who are your favorite bands? I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of personal. Like certainly I like a lot of famous stuff that everybody likes, but I also have just I don't know. I like what I like, and I don't need to sit here and argue with why it's good or not.
Yeah, and remember we used to argue with Hardy all the time about that because he would get mad at us, because we didn't treat it the same way he did. Like it was like important.
Yeah, but is Sandstorm dubstep or is it
right? Like,
do you like it?
I feel like I'm woefully uninformed. Like I don't know all the different.
Well, you should listen to
subsets.
Hardy's show.
No.
I'm serious.
I'm
because
talking
he
about.
talks about the music. He just doesn't play it. He talks about
He
it.
doesn't just hear it; he listens to it. You're
So
not hearing
I
Jimmy.
listen
You're Jimmy.
I'm like Mike. I listen to songs and I'm like, oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, I like that. Like I don't necessarily say I like this subsection of some other random group of
You
songs.
can't be put
I
in a
don't
box,
know.
Paul.
I don't because I can't be put in a box because I don't know what the box is.
Right. You just like what you like, and
Like when you were talking, what is it that you called Sandstorm?
Dubstep.
Dubstep. I've never heard that term in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Nor have I. Yeah.
Well, apparently I don't know anything about it, so I'm just going to.
So I couldn't tell you if I like dubstep or I don't.
I do like house music.
I like house
I like
music.
house.
We haven't had
I
good
like
house
house
music
music,
in a while.
No, I mean like
Zed,
Skrillex and
Clarity, and
Zed,
stuff
those
like
are
that.
All, yeah.
If you look at my
Haven't had a
iTunes,
song like that in
you'd be like,
minute.
really? Fred likes that?
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Driving up from the cave.
Who,
Yeah.
Not like, is it like it's house music or is it like Zed and like?
I like the.
Yeah. We should have when we were in
In
that,
Germany, we
Yeah, no,
should've
we were in that
gone
club in
down.
Germany, and Fred's like, "All right,
We
he's got
gotta go.
glow sticks. Let's go."
We gotta
Fred's got
go.
the glow sticks
Yeah.
going like this. We're like, we just
Gibson
decided-
After Dark was. I bet.
And now it's time to
Good
dance.
It was a great time.
Sprockets. West German Television presents Sprockets.
Justin corrects me. On the last show, I talked about a script that Schwarzenegger tricked Stallone into accepting.
Cobra.
I said it was Cobra,
Yep.
but Justin says it was Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Oh, jeez.
And that makes, I think
good job by Schwarzenegger.
Great
Then.
title.
Yeah,
Oof. It's like throw mom off the train.
that was an awful movie.
Yeah,
Oh
I know,
my
I
God.
think Stop or my mom will shoot. Who played the mom? Like some old
Yeah,
lady?
yeah, it was. Yeah,
I got some old lady. Whatever. Let's say Schwarzenegger turned down Cobra, especially with that villain. That's a big mistake.
Linda writes in, I don't know what she's talking about. She says, you may have covered this already. I've been reading on social media that Tom Brady will return as general manager. Wondered if it's true.
Okay, there's some fake news going around.
She's talking about the Raiders or us?
What?
There's some stuff, a fake news graphic going around because my grandma, who barely speaks a lick of English, sent me the other day, "Oh, Creed, I heard Tom Brady's coming to join the ownership." And I was like, "No, he's a part owner of the Raiders." And he's like, "Oh, that's what Facebook said."
Oh, that's what this happens all the time.
Yeah.
It happens- my dad will send me
They
stuff
ate the
all
trash.
the time and be like,
Oh,
"What?"
Facebook.
I'm like, "Dad,
Yeah,
it's fake.
it's a fake graphic.
It's not real."
Let's see. Mitch in Saratoga. I'm going to be in town on Saturday for Post Malone.
Nice.
And I'm wondering what the best place to eat dinner around town is. Any type of food. Well, for you in Boston, there's a million.
Well,
restaurants.
yeah, that's town is.
Well, Post
Yeah.
Malone's
Which
here.
town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if he means Foxborough, there's, Davio's. There's all the restaurants at Patriot Place. There's Luciano's down the street. If you want the best nachos, go to 4 in Franklin.
Oh,
Nice.
really?
Yeah.
I love nachos.
I think I've been there.
I love
4?
nachos.
I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, it's a
I
good
think I've been
restaurant.
there.
Nachos are often my celebration meal. Like when I was like really desperate for an apartment in LA, and I finally got one, and I was like, I'm going out for nachos. I just treat myself to a big ass plate of chicken
That's
nachos.
a
Speaking of that, has anyone tried the
Cibo
new
Mate's
barbecue
pretty
place
good.
down
Not
the
yet.
street where
It's
Red
He's an
Wing was?
intriguing
kicking.
guy.
It's
He
kicking.
really is.
Yeah, I usually like to wait about a month or so, let them work out the kinks with new restaurants. I don't want to go
Good
charge
call.
it into new places because
The barbecue place.
like
we're
you feel
talking about?
bad. They're overwhelmed. They don't have stuff yet. And you don't want to judge it while they're still getting it going. You know.
Speaking of barbecue, I was at Robert T. Lynch yesterday, the golf course in Brookline.
Fancy.
And it's not that fancy, but anyways, long story short, some of the best fried chicken I've ever had in the entire state. I had the Clubhouse restaurant's called the Hemlock Grill, and they had like a barbecue smoker going the whole time. I didn't try the barbecue, but the fried chicken was so freaking good that I want to try the barbecue, but also it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if I could ever not get that fried chicken sandwich again.
Oh, it's a sandwich?
Well, they have fried chicken. They have fried chicken sandwiches. I got a Nashville hot one. It was so good.
If you like fried chicken, like off the bone, like real fried chicken, Hidden Gem on the Cape.
Okay.
Seafood Sam's in Sandwich. On the weekends, they have a fried chicken dinner. You have to wait a little longer because it's made to order. Decadent. It's decadent.
Decadent.
Yeah.
Decadent.
Yeah. So of all places, Seafood Sam's for the fried chicken.
Well, that's why I was confused about this golf course having randomly like a delicious scratch chicken with good southern barbecue and fried chicken.
Mitch in Saratoga also reminds me that, and a lot of people have sent this in, he was playing Connections in the New York Times, and the first two words were Chicago Pope. But also in that same one was Rocky and Gladiator, right? Oh, is that me or you?
That's you.
I don't know. I usually never have this.
Answer it.
No, I'm not going to answer it. I'll put him on air.
There, we definitely got some people, some Terminator people that were standing their ground on our discussion the other day.
I could have been with them, but.
But people were convinced that whoever did that day's connection for New York Times listens to our show.
Yeah.
But Chicago Pope was kind of in the news, so I don't know.
Yeah, but the other stuff.
They have Rocky in there too.
I don't believe in
Chicago
coincidences.
Pope. I wonder where they came up with that.
Right.
Same place that we came up with it.
People just upset with Evan.
Good. I like making people upset.
Kevin in Dublin says, Evan just described Daft Punk as alt-rock. Does he think Metallica is techno? How about the jazz virtuoso known as Marilyn Manson? Or a great trance group called the Beatles?
I'm so sorry.
You got to learn your genres.
I'm so sorry.
You don't know music.
Really
you may know ball, but you don't know music.
I don't know music.
How would we describe Daft Punk?
I don't know.
I mean, electronic. I only say this. There's great.
I would think of it more of that.
I don't know the different subsets.
There's amazing
of
videos on the internet where they show the music, and they go and how Daft Punk cut little pieces of all the different songs to make something like Get Lucky, and it's just the most random little nuggets of sound from so many weird songs that some you've heard of, some you haven't. And they somehow put all these pieces together, slow some of them down, speed some of them, and then all of a sudden it's and then they hit play on all of them at once, and you're like, oh, that's Get Lucky. I don't even know how those guys do what they do. Crazy.
Crazy. Justin says, I'm right there with Evan about Prince. I thought for years he was some clone of Michael Jackson. Then I started to listen to him, and I realized why the olds love Purple Rain.
Oh, yeah.
It's not even.
Are you an old Paul?
It's not even Purple Rain's a great song, but I already knew
the album.
I already
itself.
the whole album.
Yeah.
Okay, I already knew the song Purple Rain. I was getting into more of the deep cuts.
Yeah.
He was pretty brilliant when it came to the business side of things too, which I didn't realize until recently.
I just have a affinity for performers. He would bring the house down.
And he was a musician.
And he was so talented. It wasn't like he was just standing up there, you know?
You really enjoyed Manilow last night. He put on a show.
Ben in Brooklyn, he says, not all 80s music is new wave. Tears for Fears wrote songs with compelling lyrics and imaginative guitars. Their songs have been covered a lot over the years.
Sure.
I was singing Everyone Wants to Rule the World just this morning in the shower.
And everybody, too.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
just this morning.
See, everyone wants to talk about music now.
Yeah.
So let's let them talk about
I'm
music.
apparently not supposed to. So.
Let's see. Who is this? I don't know. It says, I've got a lot of problems with you people, and now you're going to hear about it.
Oh, whoa.
I've now heard two of the most egregious takes ever when it comes to music on this podcast. First, during the emergency podcast when Mayo was fired, Paul said Stevie Nicks was Fleetwood Mac. and as big a Fleetwood Mac fan as I am a Patriot fan, this is unacceptable by Paul. Many of their biggest hits were sung by the late, great Christine McVie, and Lindsey Buckingham was critical to their sound, too. And then multiple panelists take Neil Diamond over James Taylor. I disavow this sacrilege and urge you to do the same, Fred.
So I would say that...
I'm so sorry.
The Fleetwood Mac thing
I agree with the Fleetwood Mac. Well, I also picked James Taylor, so I would guess I agree with the whole
Fleetwood Mac
email.
thing, I can totally hear the other side. Like,
Break the Chain is one of their best songs.
They were all a huge part. Like, Fleetwood Mac would not have been the same without any of the members.
And their drama was so crucial to it all, too.
Correct, which is kind of why I made the point. I just feel like Stevie Nicks was the best of, and maybe I misspoke by saying she was Fleetwood Mac. That's probably strong. So I can totally take the criticism there. The other one is just like your preference.
But I think they all
I think
had,
James Taylor has a million great songs. I
Yeah.
would rather see Neil Diamond in concert than James Taylor.
And Fleetwood Mac had, I think everybody else had solo projects, but nobody did Leather and Lace, right? Like that's Stevie Nicks. Like she had
also-
the hits. She had like the solo hits.
She had
right?
the one with Don Henley too. She had great duets. That was because of Jimmy Iovine, who was her boyfriend at the time, and he cherry picked all these like duets for her to do. And
interesting.
That's how her solo career really kind of. And Belladonna came, I think, around that time.
Get this on VH1 behind the music.
It's another documentary. Maybe you should culture yourself and do something other than watch the Patriots.
I just listen to Hardy's show and I get all the info I need.
Okay.
Because he talks about the songs. Jasper in Portland. Rumor has it that the MBTA will be upgrading the Foxborough commuter rail station to develop world standards in anticipation of FIFA, which is great news.
That sounds good.
Okay.
I read that.
Yeah,
In
I
addi-
did read that.
In addition to that, I think Kraft should pay for additional trains on game days to ease off pressure on traffic, cut down on dues. I don't know what that means. I would take a train if it didn't show up so close to kickoff and leave so soon after.
Yeah.
The after part is tough.
It's hard to thread the needle. It's just a little intimidating where you're like, you got to get the train out, and there's only a specific time you can come in.
Yeah,
especially if you're making it.
It'd be great to have multiples.
Yeah.
Well, it should come down this far on a more regular basis, I feel like. I feel like it goes so far north every day on a regular schedule.
Yeah, the tough part
You
is
can take
definitely
the T to
after.
Lowell.
Yeah.
Maybe they pump in PU postgame show into the train.
Yeah, there you go.
Forced to listen.
Not sure if it's been said, but if you could get a licensed edit of Dire Straits' Money for Nothing without Sting singing about MTV into the intro in the riff, that would go so hard during games.
Go so hard. Yeah, we can't do I was thinking we can't play any music, right? Like there's nothing we can do on the show because it's
You can sing it.
illegal, right? But even that I heard it's like.
Is it?
Well, we heard a story.
You could
about-
argue parody if you're singing it, at least.
They got in trouble on ESPN for
Yeah.
singing "Happy Birthday."
Yeah.
How is that not in public domain?
Right.
That's the story, and I'm sticking to it. Maybe it was
How-
exaggerated
I don't-
to dissuade us from ever doing it, but.
How is the Happy Birthday song not in public domain? Who wrote that?
They're definitely talking about you.
Yeah.
On the sports.
More
Network.
Manilow talk.
On the Manilow
Yeah.
show, jeez.
Telling you.
Patriots royalty. Is that Matt Smith?
It's good stuff.
Is that No Socks?
No Socks.
No Socks enjoyed himself.
Oh, he
last
must have
night.
been in his element.
Did he have a beer with a hole in it?
He did not. No.
That's shocking.
Want to enjoy it.
No, he did not. It was Wednesday.
I don't know.
Stuff to do.
It's No Socks. I mean, no socks on a
5 o'clock
Wednesday.
somewhere.
Stephen Raleigh has a football question. If the
Aw.
defense is in the top 10 or 12, how good does the offense need to be relevant or viable for playoff contention?
In what?
2025.
Top 10 or 12 in what?
Points allowed.
So where have they been in recent years?
They were in the 20s last year. They were not good.
Yeah.
The year before they were.
I don't think anything.
I don't know. I'm making
Top
up
10.
points allowed.
The offense has to be good. I don't think it really.
I mean, it's
I think the
overall.
offense needs to be good.
There are- I mean,
I don't
I
care
think-
how good your
yeah.
defense is. If you can't score, you're not going to win a lot of
I think we
games.
talked about this last year, where there's it's not like great defenses that win championships. I mean, like there's certainly defenses that peak at the right time, but you just need to be able to say we have a good enough team to win the defense to win the Super Bowl. The offense has to be the driver to get there
Yeah.
and win the game. You know.
I think if you have a good offense, there's probably 28 teams that have a good enough defense to
Yeah,
win
right,
the Super Bowl.
right.
They were 21st last year.
In points?
24.5 points per game allowed. So better than that.
What about is there an overall defense
That'd be
ranking?
yards technically,
It's
but
yards,
it's
yeah.
outdated.
I hate
We
that
don't do
stat.
that anymore.
We don't do that.
Right.
Yards.
DVOA.
Matthew in Arizona, I remember buying Green Day Dookie on cassette tape at Strawberries in 1994 when I was
Nice.
10. Anyway, I feel like we need a From Red to Blue miniseries covering the Patriots from 1960 to 1999. There's a lot of great history with the team not covered. You get generations that need to know what came before, like the injury of Darryl Stingley, for example, Jim Plunkett, Steve Grogan, etc.
I agree with that. I don't think that there's anything out there, and I know their history isn't as decorated as like the Celtics history or whatever in terms of winning, but I think there's a lot of really great players. You know, John Hanna, Stanley Morgan.
So I've been talking to. I mean, that's kind of why I want to do just a little something with the '85 team because. And I've said it many times, but going back and watching the team and like the TV copy and listening to the announcers talk, and you really experience the games, you know, as a fan, you get to know the team in a way that, you know, you could have told me, oh, Raymond Claiborne, sure, he played. I knew. Then I watched the games and like, this guy was an outstanding cornerback. I mean, they wouldn't even throw at him. You know, those kind of things. I totally agree with the email that there were, you know, the 76 team was really good, fell short in Oakland. Were they in Oakland at that point? I can't remember.
You got it.
The 85 team, the 96 team, which I got refreshed a little bit reading about Parcells as well. You know, there were, it wasn't a straight line, but you can kind of connect some of the dots.
Sure.
To each decade. And a real quick aside, I mean, you guys, like, 80s they went to a Super Bowl, 90s they went to a Super Bowl, aughts they went to a Super Bowl, teens they went to a Super Bowl. We're now 2025. Like, this could be the first time since the 1970s that the Patriots
Clock is
organization
ticking.
didn't go
Deuce.
to the Super Bowl.
Turning up the pressure
Sorry.
on Mike Vrabel. Mike, your move.
You got 5 years.
But like, I feel like now that we're post Brady, and my generation has had a little bit of taste of it not winning every single year. Like, you have a new appreciation for some of those older Patriots teams before Brady, that like the '90s teams and stuff like that were really good teams. That now, if you told me that we were going to be the '96 Patriots, you would take that in a heartbeat, right? So
the '96 Patriots were a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Like the '85 team was okay. It was a playoff caliber team. The '96 team was a Super Bowl caliber team. They probably would have lost in Denver had Denver not gotten upset by Jacksonville. Denver was better than the Patriots that year, but they were Super Bowl worthy. They just weren't quite good enough that day against Green Bay. Green Bay was better.
And they kicked it.
That's how it kind of happened. So that's, I mean, watching, there's so many
Belichick
parallels
allowing 2 80-plus yard touchdowns
from that 85
Mr.
team
Defense.
to some of the bad Patriots teams. Just like I said it before, where you just see recurring themes within football. Even though the game is completely different than it was in the 80s, you still understand it's about takeaways. It's about capitalizing on mistakes. You know, it's being able to run the ball at the end of the game. Those kind of things. Like there's certain truths that just you see continue to be true. Even as
and
they
that
were
team,
40
like
years
the
ago.
'96 team, you know, they got really banged up in '97. They would have had a really good chance to get back, and they ended up losing, you know, Curtis and Terry Glenn, and all those guys are out in the playoffs. It was basically Drew and Sean Jefferson, I think.
Should have been enough. It's got Drew.
Yeah, you know why it wasn't enough?
What?
Mike Vrabel.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sack, right?
Strip
Yeah,
sack
strip
of Drew.
Yeah.
7-6 divisional round win.
David Manila has some music stories. He says, I used to work at the stadium and other venues as a concert stagehand before I left for the Philippines, and that gave me the opportunity to hear all kinds of music. I grew up with the Beatles, CSNNY, Aretha, before moving on to Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, but I've always appreciated hearing new music. I remember working the Madonna show at Foxborough Stadium and how bad she smelled after the sound check.
Oh.
I remember the inflatable pig getting stuck on the cable in the middle of the show. One time I took my new bride, our 33rd anniversary is today, congratulations, to see Elton John and Billy Joel. And we got to see one of my coworkers fall out of the lighting truss onto the drum riser.
Not the drum
Before the show started, she recovered, thank God. My wife looked at me and
It's
said,
like that sounds
do you ever
dangerous.
do that? To which I said, yes, but without the falling part. The next night I was on duty at Great Woods, and the stage manager had me climb up to the truss to run the spotlight for Peter Gabriel. Great times.
My wife loves Peter Gabriel.
Yeah.
I think Andy was at that Elton John, Billy Joel one. That was
in
here.
the 90s?
I don't remember.
I think so.
Boston Cream, one more question for all of us. If you could play any professional sport for your career, which sport would you pick and why?
Basketball.
Golf.
Hockey.
Hockey?
Yeah.
Probably baseball.
Baseball is probably the best in
Baseball
terms of pay.
money-wise.
Yeah.
Pay, damage to the body.
Yeah, that's why like basketball kind of threads the that's I understand why you would pick
Basketball is
hockey, but
probably the best pay.
yeah, basketball is probably the best combination of pay.
I would take tennis.
Pay, celebrity,
Tennis or
no
golf.
contact.
That's a really hard
Tennis
choice,
or golf
though, Fred.
too.
I
But
like-
as a golf, I would want to be a guy because
Like the idea, like
they make way
obviously,
more money.
Now we're switching.
obviously,
It's just funny.
for any of our answers, we're really good at it, right? We're not
Yeah.
one of the bench warmers.
No,
or,
we're
like
a
if I'm
star
like
in the sport.
Well,
like
that's a
top
good
10
point.
of tennis, like you're traveling all over the world to these great locations. You're staying
Yes.
in 4 or 5-star hotels, and you're playing tennis.
Weather.
Like, what could be better?
It's
But
international.
it changes quick if you're like the 70th ranked guy.
Well,
right?
that's what I
Like,
say. Like in any of our answers, we're really good.
Yeah,
So if
but I
you're
could be the
really good
70th
and like,
best.
wouldn't you want to be a quarterback or a football team? Or what would be better than
I don't
that?
want to get.
I would like to
get
be kind
hurt.
of incognito though. I'd like to still go out and like live my life.
That's the problem with
Yeah.
being a basketball player is like you're like
Yeah.
7
Like
feet
when you're
tall
done with the pro
everybody's
And
like,
quarterback.
You can play the
Yeah.
senior tour in golf or tennis. You
Yeah.
can play it the rest of your life.
So
That's how I feel.
I totally get the perks of golf and tennis. I don't know about the individual sport though.
It's hard.
Yeah, that'd be
It's really hard to get up to
You
that.
got your caddy on your team.
I think I enjoyed like sort of that
team
team
camaraderie.
the team building, like the locker room.
I
I would
agree.
miss that.
It'd be hard to
Golfers
have it
get
all
such
on you.
sick
Like your whole.
sponsors,
What was
though.
going on in the locker room?
You don't you worry about it.
So no, it's a good question.
It's a great question.
Yeah. All right, that's going to be it for this week of Patriots Unfiltered. Let's see. Next week we
Yeah,
have
OTA
another
Monday,
OTA
so
on
we'll-
Monday,
yeah.
so we'll be out there and then we'll talk about it on Tuesday. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Hey, this is Alex. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you really want to help us, make sure you like us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, make sure you follow us on the New England Patriots YouTube channel to see this show and everything else we do here at the Patriots. Thanks a lot.